Hello and welcome to the King Hero's Journey podcast. My name is Beth Martins. I am the host, and today I have a special guest on, my favorite alchemist, Benjamin Balderson. And before we get started, I'll just give you guys a little bit of an intro. Come say hello in the chat if you happen to be there. Billington Bear, I haven't seen you for a little while. You don't have a bear in your name there. I won't press you for details on that. And nice to see you. It's been a while. So I'm pretty excited about this conversation. It might have been a solo stream, my first solo stream in, I don't know how long it's been, like forever. And then I just really wanted my friend Ben to be here with me to talk about growing. Because growing is a wonderful conversation. And I know there's been a lot of talk about growing food and growing a following or whatever kind of growing you're up to. But in my world, this is the people that I love, that they are not afraid to grow. And it turns out to be more rare souls than you might think. And yes, doing very well. Thank you, Billington. I appreciate it. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Ben on. And if you are new, by the way, to the King Hero's Journey podcast, then welcome. I'm glad you're here. It is where I am hosting people to talk truth. Now, we throw that word around a lot. It's almost been watered down and means nothing, just like freedom, my favorite words. They ruined them all, Ben. And you're muted, just in case you don't know.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, that seems to be the order. And it's been quite a while that seems to have been the order of the day, where they've completely either watered a word down to where it's meaningless, or completely reversed the definition, or the definition's got nothing to do with what you think it does. What's up, Billy?
Exactly. Yeah, they stole. They steal all the good words, and they stole the rainbow, and they steal all kinds of things from us that were lovely to have in our vocabulary and our ideas. But that doesn't stop me from loving the truth and digging the truth and knowing what the truth is. And I know you're a big fan of that as well. So I've seen you go through a lot of transformations in the time that we've known each other. Here's another one. I was just around relationships, how those have changed. Now, I'm not going to ask you necessarily to, get into the nitty gritty of your own personal and private life. That's completely in your hands, what you want to share. But I've noticed that a lot of relationships have come and gone, and a lot of changes. So you may or may not want to mention names, but just how that's happened. I've seen that your public life has changed in the way that you are putting material out, and so that's got a very different purpose behind it. And that is Benjamin Balderson's show, Deliberating Dog-Face Dudes, with Marcus, I don't know his last name.
Marcus Allen and Steve Wakening.
Right. There you go. Yeah, and I was on Saturday night really enjoying your stream and just being real. I was sad.
They're two of the greatest guys. Two of my very best friends. Steve's lived with me for a little bit even. He got separated from his longtime partner, and they had kids and everything else, and that's rough stuff, and he did the right thing, and he's the one who left, and left them set up, and so he needed a place to hang out for a minute, and I'm that place. But yeah, they're two completely solid guys. I wish you would have been at the last year's Flattoberfest. Marcus and I both went there, and the one in Vegas. Last year though, it was like almost like private, because we just got to hang out, and there wasn't that many people, and it wasn't an event where you have to do it. I mean, it was an event, but the Hurricane Helene scrambled it. So, there wasn't all the, you have to be here now and doing this. And instead it was just kind of hanging out. So that was pretty damn awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. We just made it to Fargo.
Nice.
Yeah. Got across the border, and it's so much better in the US right now. Oh my goodness. Because it's just 2.5, maybe 3 hours drive south for us. It's exactly the same climate. And as soon as you cross the border, the roads are good. There isn't holes everywhere like there is here. There isn't a construction site at every single corner. Like, it's an absolute traffic psyop here. They can't shut roads down fast enough. I actually want to call right now, if I can rant for a second, call our 311 locally and see how many construction sites do you currently have open? And how many are you currently working at on a daily basis? That might be like, one. You can see actual people working and stuff getting done. It is just so incredibly frustrating.
I've got to imagine the red tape in Canada is worse than it is here. And that is what stops a lot of construction around here. You would think that you could just whip it out. No, you've got to go through 83 layers of red tape, and each layer has a person attached to it that you've got to appease and make an appointment with, and blah, blah, blah. And that's 90% of what's holding up construction sites is you can't get the person, like, let's say I just want to do an electrical project on my house. I got to go through all the nonsense to say I'm going to do it, get that approved, get the permit for that. Then I can start construction after they've approved all of that. Partially through this construction, they call this the rough-in. After the rough-in, I have to have an inspector come out. Hopefully in the next month, the inspector has an opening where he can come out and I pass that fucking inspection, and I don't have to wait another month. That he comes out, says, yep, you're doing good. You're wiring it right. I can go start doing the rest of the stuff. Then I got to line out another damn inspection just with this dude. This isn't including the general inspector that's going to come around and everything else. Just for this one project. And so any of these things, the red tape you got to go through. And like I said, you guys are more left leaning than the United States, and the left leaning tends to really be about regulations and giving as many useless people jobs as they possibly can.
That's it, exactly. Just building up that bureaucratic element and making a bunch of dummies. Yeah, but in the States, they don't block the roads when they're not working on them. That's what I notice, right? We block the roads almost indefinitely. It can be for like 2 years, 3 years, where they close a lane. All you get is pylons, no work, no nothing. So fine, you're waiting for permits, then get off the road.
Yeah.
I'm ready
to just take white tape or white spray paint and spray it. I'm in Northern California, and it's the damnedest thing. They just spray with white spray paint around the big potholes, like, hey, we can't fix it yet, but hey, look, there it is. Don't drive in that sucker.
Exactly. Well, that would be preferable, because here it's people drive like, whoa, like this and this and the weaving and everything. It's just insane. My poor son had to learn to drive in pothole season. And
I just have the jacked up F350. So with the giant, it's choosing which one's the lesser pothole where I am. Like I'm clear out in the mountains. We get basic, they try to at least make it so we can get in and out, but it ain't pretty.
Right. Well, having seen the contrast several times now, in Louisiana, we would see a construction site would go up in the middle of the night. They'd work with floodlights all night long. They would do the whole entire job. It would be clear for the traffic in the morning. This is just absolutely unheard of here now. It used to be more reliable, but anyway, I guess I'll stop complaining about the traffic. I'm very lucky I don't have to be in it very much and can strategically get around on an e-bike right now. So that's better for me anyway. But yeah, so we're going to jump in. That is a link in the chat right directly to the show that we were talking about, Deliberating Dog-Faced Dudes. And then this is a link to Ben Balderson's personal channel. They stream to both, so you can go and sub to both of them. You're in the club that didn't get their channels back. There's very few of us. I've mostly heard about people who got their YouTube channels back.
I didn't even try. I didn't even
Oh, you
mess with
didn't
it.
try. Okay.
I don't got the damn time this year. It's
Okay.
this year we had too many cattle, and wish we actually had 2 more alpaca, but we still had babies alpacas and too many cattle, and I expanded my garden, and just too much work.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah, the appeal was really simple. Rose told me exactly what to do, what to say that worked for her and several other people. I went and did the exact thing, and I got a message back saying, no, you're not getting your channel back. So it's like, oh, well.
That's wild.
Yeah, kind of interesting. Now, am I that special? I don't think so, but maybe, I don't know, the bots don't like me or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Something
I was thinking it's probably not worth my time either.
right.
I don't say that wild of things particularly, but I've got that air about me that anybody that's like a liberal, if they're super liberal, and I'm not even a Republican, they will just lose their mind, and they think I'm the most. What's up, Accidental Alchemist? They think I am like the scariest thing that's ever fucking been, and they freak out. And some of the reactions that I draw, even in person, they're just wild. Why? One of my neighbors pulled a gun on me because I was arguing with her mom from like 8 feet apart. I'm like, you kidding me? What are we doing right now?
Wow. And then what happened?
Yeah. Well, then I pulled one, and I'm faster. I saw her going with it, and I'm a faster person. So, right. And around here, like maybe a month ago, we were having real problems with feral dogs. So all these city people, and I'd swear there's a sign at the beginning of the road that says drop your half dead stray dog, your dog that you can't take care of and don't want off here. And so they drop these dogs off, they pack up, and they're starving. So what do starving dogs do? They go find something to eat.
Yeah.
And they killed my alpaca buddy, and they killed like three calves out on the flats out here. None of my calves were locked up, thankfully. But my full-sized alpaca buddy, they killed him, and his name's Buddy for a reason. Like, he's the one that was always up your ass anytime you were doing something. Like, do what you doing, man. Like, he was a good boy. And so I've been searching, making sure that's not a problem since. And obviously you got to go armed, because hey, don't know what you're gonna do against a pack of feral dogs. Like,
Exactly. Wow. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. Yeah. I've heard over the years how much loss and death you've had to deal with because you're running a very lively operation full of
that's
life.
farm life.
That is farm life. Yep. It's good to see through your eyes. So before we dive right into the topic that we're going to talk about growing today on many different levels, I just saw Any Word made a comment: objective truth versus subjective truth. Assuming reality is fluid, then objective reality might not be possible. You want to comment on that? I have lots to say.
I think there is an objective reality, although I do agree that it's fluid. It's changing and moving over time, but like objective reality, and I've had this debate before, and I don't even understand, like, even like the hard Christians that think that there's an objective reality to like morals and things like that. Like, objective reality, I'm holding this screw. Here's a screw. It is what it is. That's objective.
Yeah, whether you believe in it or not.
Yeah.
Right.
And subjectively, like, to me, this is something to put a house together. It's an implement. It's, a hard piece of hardware. I'm happy to have them around. Some people might feel entirely differently about it. You can feel however you want about anything, but at the end of the day, there is some actual reality that is true in there. A tree does make a sound in the woods when it falls, even if nobody hears it. That's we aren't needed for that. I do understand the double slit experiment, that we're altering reality to some degree. I don't disagree with that. But we only altered a course of a thing. We didn't really end up changing much. Like, I can take and change the river's flow just ever so slightly, but the river's still going to do what it does. Man likes to do that. They like to put up things against nature, and it might take nature 100 years, 500 years to win, but it wins every time. It's every time because it's got the time. Our little blip of a change that we made didn't mean shit.
Nicely said. Nicely said. Yeah. Reality doesn't matter what you think or feel or believe about it. Right? That doesn't condition it. That's where people have got lost, I think, in the child archetype. And, you know, if you believe it's real, it's real. It's like, no, it's fake and gay.
Also, the big push with the all the people that are on the where we're a computer simulation theory, where this is a simulation. So
Right.
that takes away all actual reality. Now it's like the Matrix, where it's all just code that can be completely manipulated. So that goes along with that also.
Indeed. Yeah, that was fancy. We, as I mentioned, we took that trip to Fargo, and my son heard about simulation theory, so he brought it up. And I probably wouldn't have gone there with him. The conversation gets very deep, very fast, and he put an end to it fairly fast. Didn't want to go into the intense philosophical realm, but we both basically said, "Yeah, we don't know." And you know, it's possible that this world is simulated out of consciousness, but that doesn't make it not real, right? That everything has a source; it came from somewhere, and I do have a sense of code. Like I use that word code to describe all kinds of, especially internal experiences. To me, that's all code and can be decoded. So I'm a strong stand for that. But at the end of the day, what are you going to do differently if it's a simulation? Like what does that lead people into a dystopic mindset where they don't care, they don't take action on things that are important about life? If you're using your belief in simulation for that purpose, then that to me just doesn't do justice to life.
Well, even if you go the opposite way and it's just all peaches and cream and everything's what you're imagining, that's not going to work out either, because the problem is we live in this shared bubble. So definitely you're influencing reality, but so is everybody else around you. And you don't, I understand there's definitely some people with a stronger will, with a stronger bubble. Their influence is much greater. I get that. But you can't break basic laws. Not anybody I've ever seen or known of. Outside of superhero stories that are all made up, there's not any people doing any of these type of things. And I know there's a lot of people that really want to. And there's a bunch of people that think that they can, and they just haven't figured it out. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a bunch of human abilities that we haven't tapped, and we have abilities to work with and manipulate reality that we don't quite understand yet. I get that.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can invert reality. I think there's still basic truths. And if we're a simulation theory, what are we a simulation of?
And
a simulation mimics something.
Right. And I asked my son, who's the simulator? Right. If it's a simulation, then there's a simulator generating the simulation, right? So then you get pretty deep. Hello, Sue Finelli. That didn't come out right. And Indoctrinated saying hi.
What's up, Ryan?
Nice. Oh yeah, Ryan. Oh, that's subtle. I totally didn't get that.
The other thing I have to say about that is that also pushes, because there's a huge problem. Like, even if you look at the Kabbalion breaks its own rules, where everything descends from this source, and it's all a dissension. Well, it even that breaks its own rules. Even like it's always a polarity. So the problem with this idea that any idea can work if you just want it hard enough, or if enough of us want it hard enough, which I'm not saying some of them won't, but not any idea. You can't just do anything. There is rules. And the problem is if, say, I got a pile of hardware, and I'm going to try and turn this off.
Thank you. While you're doing that,
that don't normally happen. I got it.
Okay.
Say you have a pile of material. The thing is you can imagine a mansion, but if you only got enough pile of material to build the 30 by 40 shack that I live in, that's what you're going to get. Like, no matter how hard you imagine this shit's going to be a mansion. And that's where the problem with that everything descending, it's not just, as an alchemist, it's not just the sulfur and the salt. It's the two balance each other out in order, if you're trying to make the stone. You put too much sulfur in there, it's too liquidy, it won't solidify. You put too much salt in there, it's grainy, it won't turn liquid. Like, this is how this works. And so there's a second side. So yes, we have this infinite possibilities in the thought sphere. And then we have extremely finite fucking possibilities in the material sphere. And where the two come together, and really I would call that one the crystal sphere. And where the two come together here on the carbon plane, that's what you got possibilities. I've got a box of Legos. I could build the spaceship that the Lego box said, or I could make it into a little gun, or I can make it into a little castle, but I cannot make it into something bigger, more intricate, things like that. I can work with what I got, but there's still going to be finite possibilities. So what they're doing is sticking just solely in the sulfur chaos thought sphere, and then not having any grounded recognition of what is truly possible here.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very good. So we're going to talk today about areas of change and growth. And since we're already kind of deep into that, would you call it spirituality, metaphysics, cosmology kind of arena, not religion for either of us. I don't think either of us relate to the word religion. But has anything there changed for you over the last 5 years in particular, or is that a kind of solid paradigm for you?
I'm obviously still an Odinist. My thoughts, and actually what we were just talking about, is the perfect segue into that, because for the last 5 years ago, we were hot and heavy on doing podcasts, and there was a whole lot of thoughts getting thrown out there, a whole lot, and that's good. That really is. I'm not criticizing the thought side. Obviously, you need an engineer to, create this wonderful idea. But then when it comes time to actually implement it, which is where the problem that I see most around the community, too many jumped off and they just needed the next thought. And at some point in time, you got to take the good ones, the ones you think are viable and will work, and you implement them in your life, and you try them out, and you do them. A good example is solar. Everybody thinks solar is this giant thing. I've got fairly top of the line solar panels. They're the ones that'll pick up good power even in cloudy days with no sun showing whatsoever. They're 300 watt. They make a little bit bigger ones now, but not very much. I think 360. I have 48 of them and lived in Redding, California, where the sun is like 3 friggin' feet away, and the sun will literally, like, you could take one of them Rubbermaid totes, and real nice ones. You stick it outside for 3 months, you go to pick it up, it shatters like glass because the sun just cooks everything like you wouldn't believe. And still, there was maybe 3 or 4 months a year where I was able to not have generator backup. And we don't live fancy. Like when I go in and visit people in the city, I can hear their house. It sounds like a beehive. Like there's so many electric things going on all the time in everybody's house. I can hear it because in my house, like right now, we're running off of like an 1800 watt generator, which is like a 15 amp circuit, and it's running everything in here, including this. And then we shut down at night. There's absolutely nothing. There's no power lines. There's no telephone lines. There's no nothing around us. So that consumption's giant for people.
Right. Yeah, and there's things about solar. It was put out as like the cure for everything. And one thing they didn't tell people about solar was don't put it over your head on top of your house, which is where a lot of people end up using that. And the damage of the EMFs related to that are really off the charts. Welcome Stacy just said that they're junking up the desert with all of those things that actually turn into toxic garbage at the end of the day. So not exactly, I mean, we don't need to blow holes in the whole, climate-demic.
But just saying that, but these wonderful ideas, and I was all about it. I had 48 solar panels. I had I had a $14,000 battery bank, which doesn't last that long. They only like good for 7 or 8 years. They got newer batteries now that are better, but you're still not talking like a real great idea. You go live it out and actually try to live this out, and you're like, maybe not so much. Now solar does work for some things. Like I have a Grunfo solar water pump, and so anytime the sun's out, that thing's pumping. And it doesn't cost me anything, and it's a real nice deal, and it keeps everything flowing. Well, that's a specific use, but to run a fridge, to run especially like anything that has a heat element in it, a heat element literally is just creating ohms, creating resistance. The resistance where electricity dumps off and doesn't make it to the other end is heat. And that's very basic, heat and then light. And so that takes a ton of power. It's trying to push through something it's not really meant to push through. That's why it's resisting like hell.
Right.
Huge power drains. So while it's a wonderful idea and it has its uses in the way that most of us live, it's not real functional for most people. I mean, I've seen some people that can make it, but for the most part, everybody's got their generator backup. At the end of the day, there's different ways to start utilizing that. You take the George Wiseman hydrogen machine and you implement that into your diesel generator, and you get you're up your ability to run for longer. You could start using biodiesel. There's ways to do that, but at the end of the day, the way Americans have set themselves up, and I live this way too, it requires some power. Right.
There you go. Yeah. And so nothing, just back to the spirituality, cosmology, you're an Odinist, nothing's really changed for you there. What about how you see people? What's your view of people? Has that changed in the last 5 years?
Yeah. I've pulled out. Obviously, most people know I've pulled back pretty heavily. I don't really do much for interviews anymore. Mm-hmm. Even it was funny last year at Christy's family has this whole. She's from a Danish town and she's Danish. They have this Danish Days thing, and my old producer Jared came and hung out and with his mom. Brought his mom. It was pretty neat. But even he said that he bailed because nobody was actually doing any of these things. Like at the end of the day, it becomes like a stoner thing. Like, oh, it'd be cool, and you just have these wild ideas. And then I started seeing a real heavy spiral there for a while, and it seems to have settled down. But the conspiracy started getting super wild. Like the planes can fly without fuel. I was a grunt in the army in a turbines was one of the things I worked on. I was a mechanic. Nobody special, no great special clearance, just a grunt ass mechanic that was greasy all the time, and turbine engines don't run off air. Hey, I can just tell you that. I don't know what to say. It's the
Right.
places, the people, the places that they have to go in order to make some of these things make sense. I'm just not with it. And then when you aren't down with their thing, they are going to get real nasty with you, which isn't the case with some people, but with a lot. Like Beth and I have disagreed with things over the years, and it doesn't change our relationship. We disagree with things right now, and it doesn't matter.
Exactly. When I'm having you on, I'm not thinking, oh, is he going to agree with me on everything? No, that's actually not even the point. Now, there are other people I don't agree with, and I won't have on. I just won't,
right?
Because then I'm going to just argue with them, or I'm going to, challenge them or something like that. So I'd rather, because it kind of comes down to the heart. And my question was really more about, how do you see humanity? Has that changed over the last 5 years?
Yeah. I had a lot more hope 5 years ago.
You did. Yeah.
I don't care what mythology you follow or whatever, they all have an end times thing, and I'll be damned if it wow. And I'm not even one of them doomsday people, but if it be damned if it doesn't appear like that's just coming, like the all the things where family doesn't mean anything, like as a heathen, the brothers will attack brothers, oath breakers, mothers not taking care of their kids, like all these kind of things, just wild. And the people are just retarded. Like you even take the riots going on down south right now. Well, they're everywhere now, I guess. But the jump start was LA down here.
Yeah.
There is no illegal immigrants at these protests. None. Exactly. Both sides are pretending like this is about illegal immigrants. There's no immigrants at these protests. If you watch those videos, it's about 60% white dudes. Then there's a good chunk of there's about a mix of blacks and China and Asian people. And then there's like this tiny percentage of possible brown people, which you're not even sure exactly what that is. Are they a Native American? Are they a Mexican? Are they and then you listen to any of them speak, even the ones who would fall into that category, they're all speak perfect English. And I know a bunch of illegal immigrants. They are very quiet people. They don't walk around wearing flashy, weird outfits. They usually look like cowboys or like button ups, and they look very kind of proper. I mean, like workmen, but not, they don't drive trucks with the Mexican flags flying off them and jacked up and stuff. They keep to themselves and are very quiet.
Right. Not here in Canada. Not here in Canada. Like we have, now they're not illegal because our government actually invited them and paid them to be here. Huge, mostly East Indian, Middle Eastern population. I just heard that I think we're on par now. There's as many of them as there is of us who originally came from Canada.
You go like Ireland now, huh?
Yep. You go to any public place like a Costco or a grocery store, and it is at least half people who don't come from here. And you can hear they're speaking Chinese, they're speaking Hindi, they're speaking Urdu, it's all these other, and there's no relationship. It's just, woof. They have bought up businesses. They bought up every trucking company. So you don't get it was fun to drive in the States and see all these like normal guys in their trucks. It's not the way here. It's all somebody with a turban. I'm sorry, I'm very racist now. That's one of the big changes that has happened for me. Like really, I had to put the governor on.
I need to correct you on this, Beth. I need to correct you.
All right.
Racist specifically means that you believe you're better than another people, which is an entirely different subject than I want my people to have their own thing. And every other culture is allotted that. You look at like Jewish people, they shop at Jewish stores, they hang out at Jewish things, and everybody in there is that. Asian people have Asian grocery stores, Asian restaurants, not the ones that the white people eat at, the ones the actual Asians eat at. The you know, they all have their own community things. Not wanting a bunch of other people invading your community and bringing with them their culture, which I'm not saying my culture is better than your culture. I'm saying get it the fuck over where it belongs, because it can exist happily over there and mine can exist happily here. You don't need to change, morph mine into yours. That's an actual problem where you're actually almost displaying racism, because now my culture needs to step down and take a back seat to your culture. Well, that's fucking nonsense. Take that shit back to where it's from. And so that's not a racism. That's in my culture, they call that folkish. And so your tribe, your folk, your culture, your way. We don't need your people. Your people are cool. They will trade with you. We'll hang out with you. We'll get drunk with you. We don't care. But don't come over here telling us we have to do your thing.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. They're protesting now, right? Because there was some little, I don't follow it close enough, but they started reversing things. They wanted to get people here, and it's really driven by the economy, because that has, taken a lot of steps toward dying. And so they flood in the immigrants, and the corporations don't care where the money comes from. Right? Who's buying the stuff, or who's renting the places that they're building high speed. Every time you turn around, there's a great big skyscraper going up there. They've planned us for some years already about how, if you're in the census, for example, they ask you, how many bedrooms do you have? Just in case they need to tell you that you don't deserve to live with only your family, and to bring in. It hasn't quite.
I mean, it's something I've known was coming for a long time. It's not like they've been not open about it. Loxism's a real thing. It's you're treading on real dangerous ground with where you're wanting to take this conversation, though. Maybe we should go elsewhere.
Yeah, because we're on YouTube.
It's going to get real touchy.
Yeah, exactly. I think people get the basic point of that. Another thing, they set Manitoba on fire. I just saw. Now, it could be fake news, but there are fires that were individual, and they have now merged into the size 7 times the city of Winnipeg. That's how big. We have not seen the sky in weeks and weeks and weeks. We've not seen a full sun because it's all haze. Luckily, our smoke quality, for some reason in Winnipeg, it comes and goes. We get it really bad, and then it'll let up, like the smoke is just up there. We can see it.
Right.
And this is interesting. They stopped chemtrailing for the smoke season. For fire season. They did enough. Like it did its work, and they don't need to spend the money and the manpower anymore, or what? Right. So anyway, I just wanted to.
We haven't started yet, particularly, but I can tell you already this is going to be a horrible fire season. In California, also, we're getting, I bet you in the last week, in a 100-mile radius of me, there's probably been 40 spot fires already.
Right. We don't
give it another month, and a thunderstorm rolls through, and that's going to be end of that. The whole place is going to just go up like a matchbox.
Wow. We don't, I didn't grow up knowing about fire season. That is unheard of. And there were some years where, like hot and dry, and then it's toward the end of the season, it's towards August, where that starts to happen. This was first thing in the spring. So these are not natural by any means. And anyway.
Well, part of it is, I agree, the chemtrailing. Although, to be honest, I don't know that some of the aluminum that's really these plants, okay. And see, here's another thing. Again, that's the big thing I wanted to do, was live and practice what I'm talking about. So everybody goes on about the aluminum from the chemtrails. And that's all fine. But if you're spraying aluminum, if it's coming down through the atmosphere, it's either going to be inert, or it's already stable enough that it's not going to do anything. It's in its metal form. Now, where a real problem comes in is that I'm on a show. I'm on a show, honey. I'll call you back after. Love you. My daughter.
Nice.
Sorry. I have a close relationship with especially my oldest. We talk a lot. So,
awesome.
The glyphosate, if anybody can look this up, glyphosate is a chelator for metals. So aluminum's actually extraordinarily common in our environment, in our soil. It's everywhere. Now, normally it's in its metal form. It's not really. You can drink it and it'll just pass through you. Plants can't uptake it. It just sits there dormant. Now the glyphosate chelates it and makes it so it's mobile. Now it enters the water tables. Now it's in all the plants. So a lot of the blame of that, I would more put on glyphosate, and then that's drying everything up because of it, and giving it like a much drier than it normally would. It's not able to hold on to its moisture. The insides of the trees are like hollowing out. And then the other problem is one we made. And that's rather than let these forests burn, like you look at flat out the entire West Coast, there is so many species of trees and plants that don't propagate without fire. They need the fire in order for the seeds to go.
Oh yeah, fire is natural. I learned about that early on. There's some trees that literally won't grow without a fire.
The seeds will not germinate unless they have been through a fire, and the giant redwoods is one of them.
Right.
And so that now the thing is these fires are supposed to happen often, is the deal. So when it happens often, the fire shoots through, and I live in these forests, the trees naturally about 20 feet up will drop all their branches, because our trees are hundreds of feet tall. And so they'll drop all their branches 20, 25 feet up. And so that fire will pass through, and that bark is literally damn near fireproof. And so it goes right by them, and it doesn't affect them at all. And then it turns all the old nasty stuff down there. It burns it, turns it into good salt. The plants all grow better. Everything comes back refreshed. And so what we've done is because we're so scared of things that we nerf these fires and we don't let them happen. And so the first so many firefightings, well, what we should have been doing is giant controlled burns all the time, because that's what needs to happen. Is every so many years these forests need to burn. And if it's only a couple of years fuel, it goes right through. Well, when you get 20 years of fuel that's been sitting there building up and drying, and it's stacking 10 feet in the air, and there's all these fallen trees over it and everything else, well, now that's going to turn into a real fire, because now it's going to get up into the treetops, and it's when it gets into the tops that it's a problem. Now you're in real trouble. And we don't let the little fires happen. So at the end of the day, we get a giant fire. And you add that onto the glyphosate, add that onto the chemtrails. It's a cauldron of nasty.
Right. There you go. And yes, I was just going to follow up on that question about how do I see people now? How has that changed for me? And I can still go both ways. It's almost like the darker gets darker, or the dark gets darker and the light gets lighter, if you want to call it. I do not adhere anymore. This is a massive change for me into the paradigm of good versus evil. That's what we're doing here. I think that's a pile of crap and a total sideways excursion into nothing good, nothing productive, nothing created. That's the class. That's why they show us that war over and over and over and over through media, always making it the good versus the bad. And this is something now, and then the next little slide bypass is like, oh, there is no good and bad. Well, this is something I also don't adhere to, because it mucks with your basic sense of knowing. Like, even the smallest child knows when someone has a good vibe or someone has a vibe that is not supportive. So, like, I'll come down to some more basic elements like life and death. And even though death is not our enemy as it's been produced, that is the war that we're fighting inside our own psyches. A lot of people are not aware of that, and most people say, oh, I'm not afraid to die, I'm afraid of pain, or I'm afraid of suffering, and that kind of thing. But humanity has yet to really wake up to its fear of death, that to me would liberate any human that was willing to look at that, very scary beast, mostly inside themselves, because life is a constant change. You said it at the beginning of the stream, that the field is moving and changing. Life doesn't care when one tree dies in the forest. It's not the end of the forest by any stretch of the imagination. And so, yeah, I think we end up on that trap between good and evil. And I see people improving. Like, there's people I have more faith and more hope in, because I see growth every single day. That's what happens in my limited world. People take the risk to grow and change and be on their hero's journey, and it's amazing. Like, honestly, I could not be more inspired by that capacity. I feel like the work of deprogramming and releasing and the archetype work is actually getting easier for those coming to it new, because there is some shift in the field, if I say it in a really flaky way. But on the other side, where you see they're, I mean, here's a beautiful shift. They're trying to pandemic us right now. Well, there's almost zero evidence of it. One out of maybe 1,000 people right now is masking up, and God knows what they're doing about jabs and stuff like that, but they're not going for it. So there's a positive shift. One of the explanations could be that they have gone so numb, they're not responding to anything. They had to turn the TV off because just overwhelms them otherwise, if they have to keep thinking about all of that stuff every single day. But so the people are not responding. Neither are they fighting against it, but they're just not going for this. I always want to walk up to someone in a mask, like, did they say something scary on TV again? And I'll catch it.
Same here. About the same percentage of people. I mean, there are people in masks, but there's been people in masks ever since, the thing. And
exactly.
the number hasn't upticked, is what I'm saying. So,
yeah, not substantially enough to reflect the doom porn that they're sending out there. And hello, Voice of Reason, nice to see you. And you're seeing more people lately, Sue said. And yeah, but honestly, in this world, it's not established, or it's not significant by any means. So yeah, I still feel like if it were a numbers game, then we totally lost. But perhaps it's not a numbers game. It's more about the small amount of people with more energy and more clarity and more purpose, I think, are infinitely more powerful than a bunch of people with zero purpose and zero clarity. What do you think?
No, I definitely agree. It's about quality, not quantity, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I have some people that I've met over the years that I've watched do some amazing things and take their life in some real amazing directions. I've had the privilege of hosting some of them, and they spent time on my farm, things like that, and watched them make some real serious life changes. So I'm not saying that the whole world is raw dogged, but the majority, I see where the majority, it's whittling down to where it's like even when you look at the truther movement, like I said, half of them jumped off on crazy shit, half of them joined cults, like
I know that was sad. That definitely was kind of heartbreaking and liberating at the same time, because the temptation to be part of those cults went away for me. It made me see through, and I poked my head to this cult and poked my head in that cult, and maybe I'd interview the leader of the cult, and then I'd know, oh, I don't need to be involved in that cult at all. And yeah, so many good minds. One of the things that it became really prevalent to me, and you guys know it, I lost my YouTube channel over it, just being able to see controlled op for what it is, and how they don't always know what they're doing, but I think sometimes they know exactly what they're doing, and they're controlling others and spreading information that is absolutely useless and siphons off what appeared to be awake people, but they got comfortable. People think they want to awaken, but they don't, because
No.
why? Every time your idea dies, then your identity around that idea has to die, and that's like warrior work, right? Nobody's willing to do that.
Yeah, that's the alchemist right there. Every time you got to burn that dross off over and over and over again. And I do this to myself on purpose. I will examine everything I'm thinking and believing consistently. And it's part of why it doesn't shift so much anymore, because I've been doing this for a very long time. I've talked about before, when I was in prison and I did 2 years in the hole, I promise my life got torn down a million times and examined from every angle. And at the end of it, it is what it is. And you end up moving on. And it's this is Odin says, if you want to be a happy man, don't become too wise. Hey, the more it seems like that's where this ends up going. And you watch these people, like a lot of them made friends. A number of these bigger cult people made friends with me. I go through series of this though, where I got to burn everything off, and I've got to reset, figure my stuff out again, see where I stand. And it's a very interesting thing, because I was just actually considering this earlier. If you look at a lot of, I was never a TV watcher, I was a book reader. And you read fantasy books, a lot of the magical tropes will put in there, and there'll be 3 types of magicians: the white magicians, the black magicians, and then the red, which is, or something like that, which is neutral. And you have to be polarized to feel that really hard push. It's hard to be in that neutral zone. And it was always easier for everybody to be in the black or white, because to be polarized is easy. To have nuance about things, that's not easy. And that to constantly be having to examine every moving piece, even when something gets presented, and oh, this is awesome. Oh, RFK Jr. is taking away, is against the vax. Oh no, but he's not really, and he's also heavily invested in mRNA, and his wife required people to have COVID shots to be at her parties. So while that sounds good, it sounds good until I start really examining it, and then it's not so great. Now it's more nuanced, and yeah, sure, he's against this particular thing, but he's getting ready. That's because he wants to roll out the next thing. And so,
Yeah, exactly. People love their hopium because it's, again, they have to face the pain, right? Like you were talking about, and you can't exactly be a happy, wise person if you're seeing everything. That's in the alchemist range too, because you can get consumed and eaten up by that, and just spend all the day noticing all the wrongs, and that's not a life worth living either. That misses the vision and creation capacity of the alchemist. But nuance became a word. It's funny you say that one. It became a word in my vocabulary more than almost any word in the last 5 years, because everything that you looked into, there was no black and white polarized way to look at it. So you said that very well. And yeah, I enjoy seeing the nuances. I love seeing different angles, and it makes it complicated, and it is work. So I'm just reflecting everything that you really just said.
and most people, they literally want to be led. And this is where the problem comes in. And goes back to where I'm looking at people. That was a major change. In 2020, I believe I was probably a full anarchist. And I thought everybody should be an anarchist.
Right.
And since then, I believe in the class system. I don't believe in a static class system where you can't move according to your thing, according to what you do and who you are. But I do believe in a class system. Most people want to be led. They want to do the job that they were told how to do. They know how to do it. I can do it. I can do it well. Be proud of it. Go home. I have a house. I made enough money to pay my bills. I get to make some little babies that look like me and watch the TV. And that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
And on the TV, they want the things to be said that your country's great. The things you're doing are great. Everything's good. Yay. And that's what they want. And you know, in order to be a truly nuanced person, you've got to go, well, why, if I believe that everybody should be free to do what they want, why am I telling them that they have to be this responsible person that makes their own choices and takes accountability for everything? Because they don't fucking want it. They don't. And so this is where the class system comes in. Most people, and as a heathen, we had a class system. It just wasn't like the class systems they have now, where you could become a free man. Everybody should have been. But they had the thralls, and those dudes, they just wanted to live in their hut, have sex with somebody like them, produce some children like them, have enough food to eat, and they were good with that. I ain't gotta make decisions. I don't need to be informed. You know, like we've all hung out with family members that you try talking to them about all this wild information and these true facts that you've learned and you can prove, not even the conspiracy stuff, the stuff you actually have learned. And they're like, you know, and they're with you for like 10 seconds. Their eyes glaze over. They don't want nothing to do with it. Why are we trying to force that on them? Like, I don't know. And then there's a class of people that want to lead those people, but don't still want to be the decision maker, the one that has the real accountability. They just want to be above that. And that's fine too. And then at the end of the day, somebody's got to actually understand the bigger picture, take accountability for all of it. Like, why is this system a problem? You know, and where the weird parts come in is through democracy and shit like that. We've taken those ones that are don't want to actually take accountability for their life and told them that they have the same say-so as this other class people that actually are informed, have went and done things, are responsible people, and you should get fully as much say as, in fact, there's about 5,000 of you fuckers, only one of him, so you outweigh him by a lot. And so shit's gotten real weird for a long time now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's one of the reasons that I created that King Hero archetype. What and created, just gave a word to it, to try to tease out and bring those more rare souls that are not just sitting back, like you say, wanting to be led, but they're willing to get out and be a leader in some way, whether it's in your own family, in your community, in a business, or some kind of setting where you can put your goodness into the world and make a difference. So leadership is almost always the unlikely leaders that didn't want that role. They didn't go chasing it. They're not looking for power. And to me, they make the best leaders of all. They're humble. They don't want that job. They're doing it because they've got what it takes, and no one else is stepping up. Right?
100%.
Yeah.
But the problem again is those people all think that they should be, like, even now, the movement right now, the No Kings movement. But look at what you people are fucking doing. You bunch of idiots. Like, you need a king.
Right. Is there a No King movement? That's like
what they're calling these. That's what this riots is. They're calling it the No King movement.
Interesting. And these are the ones that are fully engineered and like hired and paid and actors and everything like that. And they're calling it No King. Fascinating. Fascinating, right? That they're going after the king. That with our Corona boogeyman, virus, and it's a lot of King stuff. I'm not surprised that the King hero kind of came to me in, what was it, 2018. That archetype really appeared to me. So yeah, fascinating, really interesting. So then,
And like I said, watching both sides play into it, and both sides pretending, because the Republican side wants to be anti-immigrant. There's no immigrants doing this shit. And the other sides want to be like, we're here saving the immigrants. There's no immigrants there. It's like two parents that are fighting over a kid that's went off to foster care. Like, what the fuck are we pretending here, guys? And they're all adamant into it, huge into it.
right.
None of them
right.
noticing that you're all being led by the nose, the whole lot of you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's off the charts. Like, as I become a bigger fan of reality, the fake element in life expands. Now it's unabashed. And it doesn't matter if people see that it's fake or people see the lie. It doesn't matter anymore at all, because they know there's a certain portion of the population that is not going to look in and not going to bother, and they want to be led. They want to be controlled, right? This is the programming around control, because there ain't nothing wrong with control. It's the want for it that is the problem. It's that vacuum of control that can very much show up as the want to be controlled. So one other thing about spirituality and cosmology, now this is really recent, from Daniel David. I am an artist that is very, very deep philosophically, and he was talking about, I'm curious what you think of this. So I don't talk quantum field. That's just not been in my vocabulary. I see that as more like new age flaky stuff. I could never find any of the whatevers in my own experience. But he talks about the field as opposed, maybe not opposed would be a wrong word, but like different from the source. I know you say Odin. I might have said God or life with the capital L, those kind of things. And then, so he was saying how it's very popular. And I'm sure I said it many times that, God is a mirror, or that's one of the functions of this element of the source of being, that it is a mirror, and that's how we see ourselves. And then Daniel said that no, the field is the mirror, right? So existence is the mirror, the manifest known reality that can be seen and heard and touched and tasted and smelled. This is the field. What's your take on that? Because there's something that it sparked truth in me, but I haven't really decided what's going on.
So again, I always have to approach everything as an alchemist. So the first thing we got to understand is there's not one source. There's a positive and then there's a negative. And the two things don't work without each other. They actually are one thing. So, and this is one of the things that through my lab alchemy, coming to that understanding that this isn't a union between the sulfur and the salt as in a feminine and masculine. This is both the masculine side coming back together and getting healed. And because these two things are the same thing, and they cannot exist independent of each other. Without this negative, this positive does nothing. And so now there's a third element, and this is what, no matter what you would want to name it, whether it's the ether, whether it's the zeitgeist, whether it's the field, blah, 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 label it however the fuck you want. As an alchemist, we call it the Mercury. And the only place that these two, this positive and negative, can make this transaction where they can reconnect is where this Mercury exists. This is why mythologically, the Mercury is the messenger. The Mercury is the controls trade, finance, blah, blah, blah. It's got the wings on the top and the bottom, because the only transaction that can happen between this positive and negative is where this Mercury exists. No Mercury. It's no different than trying to take two electrodes. You can hold a positive and you can hold the negative, and it won't do fuck all. And then you put them in some nice salty water, and all of a sudden, blah, it takes off. Well, this is what we're doing anytime we're talking about anything. For me, the universe is a biochemical electrical exchange, and that's going on constantly. So everything is this positive and negative, which have split. And so this is part of why I stick with the heathen cosmology, is because in theirs, the all father, or the all, which is everything, splits into the feminine, which is the void, the immaterial, and then the masculine is the material. You can't split a nothing, but you could split a something. So the all father splits the same as the all did, and then those two polarized sides are pulled together through the feminine, and it's where that destruction in life happens. That's where we live. And so this same thing is being represented in a fractal way over and over and over again throughout this entire place. This is part of why alchemy is so damn useful. It's because it's just looking at the mimicry of the initial source that we had, that we came from. And so it's inside of that. Too many people are not stepping out of that. I saw somebody put in there the all truths or half truths, everything can be reconciled. Well, this is when you're looking at the mechanics of the universe. So if you're on the positive side, the positive side's the good side. And this goes to what Beth was just saying. If you're on the negative side, that one's the good side. You don't like the positive side. The positive side don't like the negative side. But then those two are forced together. Well, as an alchemist, rather than taking and forcing them back together direct, you understand that these two things, once again, are one thing. And so this is where the reconciliation happens. The salt and the sulfur were always one thing. The sulfur enlivens the salt. And so now that's free from its blocks. These two things are now one thing again, and it's free. That's just how it works.
Right. So would then the concept of a mirror even apply at all in that cosmology?
I was trying hard to fit where a mirror is in this. I do get where he's coming from, that the sulfur and the salt is putting out an aura. Basically it's no different than why when your arm gets cut off, you can still feel the arm there, because that carbon's filling in around where the aura is. So there's a natural energetic field that was there, and the carbon body filled into that space. So even when the carbon body's gone, that energetic aura is still there. It's just you've lost the pieces to it. It's still there. So I kind of get what he's saying with that. I don't know how to fit a mirror into that exactly, but
yeah, it's interesting. So it can come down to some flaky new age concepts about basically like when you go out, say, with a bad attitude, and then you meet all the people that are going to oppose you and block you and criticize you. And then you go out with, a more generous, open heart, and you tend to also meet those kinds of people and have more of those kind of experiences. So it's pretty kindergarten in the spirituality department, but there's something to it, because when I took on this idea that the field is the mirror to me, then it's made me next level more responsible for what I'm putting into the field, like the data that I'm putting in, and it's created some good flow in my life. So that's just oh, hello, Melanie and Michelle. Nice to see you guys. Melanie's asking, could it be that everything we see outside of ourselves is also inside of us in regards to the mirror? How would you see that, Ben?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, if you think the world is awesome, then the world's awesome. If you think the world's a shithole and everybody's out to fuck you, everybody's out to fuck you. Like that's the way that works, 100%. So that, yeah.
Yeah. So what element is that reflecting us?
I mean, I wouldn't have looked at it as a reflection as much, though, myself. I just would have looked at it as you're also being a bad. You are that asshole that in any like attracts like a lot. If you put, we've all seen those things where like you could put a whole bunch of things and all the like ones will kind of suck toward each other. It's just the way that works, and so apparently you're one of them. Maybe
Right.
if you don't really like them, you should not be them. And I don't know to tell you about that. I don't know that that's a mirror. I think that's just more of an attraction type thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we can leave that one. That's interesting. It's been somewhat useful for me.
Well,
Would
there's nothing wrong with that. That's why I
right.
try to not. I understand that then the debates I'm debating, but at the end of the day, I understand that people have reached growth through like Christianity, through all kinds of things, and so I try not. If you found, I'm not going to go to your fucking grandma who. She's like, I was a good person because I lived by the Ten Commandments. Be like, it's like let her have it. That's good enough.
Exactly right. And if it's just tools at the end of the day, but tools that work, so fine, right? I'm not going to chase after anybody and stop them from that. So yeah, just read a comment here by Hedwood. He said class division is, since we were talking about this, that you're more of a stand for class division now than you were, is a necessary consequence of the reality of the range of IQ levels within the population. Some people simply don't have the capacity for high level management and leadership. So yeah, just reflecting exactly what.
Yeah, some people aren't capable and some people don't have the desire.
Right.
Both, even some high IQ people. They don't even have it. I actually know a guy. His dad paid for him. He's literally a Harvard top of the class Harvard graduate for being a lawyer. He's driven a taxi his whole life. He doesn't want to do all that. He doesn't want to do all that thinking. He drives, drops people off in different places and goes home. His dad was one of the founding partners of Dorsey Whitney, which only represents people like the Daytons and the Vikings team and things like that. You've got to be a multimillionaire. And this was back in the 90s to even talk to these people. And he didn't give a shit. He's like, yeah, I'm going to drive a taxi.
Nice. Yeah, Michelle said, trade your shit brown colored lenses for crystal clear ones or rose colored ones and all that kind of thing. Yeah, I do. I really firmly believe that we can clean our vision. So there's less and less of a lens to see through because you can de-identify from all of that stuff, right? When there's a strong identification, you're like, this is me and this is my position and this is my perspective and this is reality. But as you dissolve all of that, you become more porous and you can see through more lenses, but you're not married to any of them.
Yep. That's the perfect neutral position, and that's clear. Like, and the thing is as clear where you really start having personal power is when you can wear which ones you want at any given occasion. I see the situation for what it is, and for me, the desired outcome I would like would require me acting like this. So we call it gray, man. I walk around, I'm very good at being very subtle and nobody will notice me. And when I decide that it's time for me to be loud, whether it's I'm aggressive loud or I'm very charming loud, that's my choice. And I've weighed and measured the situation and decided what outcome I think is I want, and then what my most likely way to get it is, and then I put that on.
Yeah. You have a charming loud. Absolutely, you have a charming loud. I've been witness to that. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, and then the decision is like, what effect do I want to have in this field?
Yeah.
What's the strategy? It's not just like little kids splaying out in every direction and just knock things down. Yeah, we can be more strategic and really, what do you want to create? And that's where the alchemist comes in too, in terms of vision. What can you envision? Which is one of the major casualties of the way that the world has gone to hell, because people stop visioning, right? All of the wrongs capture their attention. They don't put any time into imagining what life could actually be like. And my life, the last 5 years, has defied all of that, because if I'm just in my life, it's done nothing but grow. Right? I've grown. Everybody around me has grown. My son has grown. The work that I've done has evolved and grown. My economy has grown. Where everybody's like, oh, inflation and I can't keep up and everything like that. It's gone the other direction for me. I just got a bill from CRA, and I'm like, oh my fucking God, like this, but it's a sign, it's a reflection. And that's, so we are having our own individual visions that we can continue to grow and build regardless of the hell that's going on around us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even in the heathen end times or any of them, not all people die. There's a capable amount that carry on. And you can imagine, like, if we stop and think about it, the way the world is right now, most people live in major cities. And that's where the shit's going to go to hell.
Mhm.
That's where it's all going to be bad. These cities are blights on the land that can't support themselves. And so that if everybody in those basically goes down, the people out farming their own place, being independent, taking care of themselves, they're still going to be there. It's going to be okay. And so this has been which is part of why I have to ground the things I'm talking about in thinking, because when the time comes, when shit hits the fan, that's not the time to experiment. That you best have your stuff worked out. And so I've been working these systems out, and I had my animals under wraps, and I've had that going, and we moved out here, and it's really nice and green. And I had to get, it wasn't good for a garden, and so I had to build my whole gardening setup, and literally hauled in probably 100 trees worth of wood, and leveled out the ground, and hauled in and hugelcultured it, and did all that. And that, that's the way hugelcultures are supposed to work. For 30 years, they're just getting better and degrading onto themselves and becoming better and better. Well, it's time to plant those seeds of whatever life you're thinking and actually live that out. Start seeing the fruits of it. And if you're not doing that, you are definitely going to be one of the ones that are caught up in the shit. Like if I don't care if you got a closet full of Dasani and rations, grocery stores have 3 days worth of food. That's what they have. After a week, people fighting, just like them feral dogs. There's nothing wrong with those dogs. Honestly, this is one of them. Like, swear to God.
Mm-hmm.
They killed Buddy, but this poor guy was he's still a pup, and he's just a tiny pup, but he was half dead, and they were definitely going to kill and eat him. And so when the rest of them went by, this guy came limping out of the forest, and I was like, oh my God. But dogs got to eat. Them dogs were just fine dogs. Somebody had been taking care of them. It's got to eat. They're starving. And when it comes starving time, I tell you what, I don't care how nice you are. Like if me and my kids are starving and you've got a whole bunch of food, we're about to have some tango.
Yeah. That's what it's going to come down to for sure. Subject change. Spaceballs 2 out in 2027. Do you know what that's a reference to?
It doesn't matter what that's a reference to, because Spaceballs 2 will be hopefully awesome. It would be so disappointing if it's not, but I saw that they got Mel Brooks and they got Bill Pullman coming back. Obviously, we lost John Candy. The world suffered for that.
Right. I am not caught up on that, so thought I'd turn that to you. And I want to give that puppy a hug. So
nice. He's such a sweetheart. I was mad. He's such a sweetheart. I didn't want another dog at all. Didn't need another dog. That's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I couldn't leave him. He was about to get killed and eaten himself. And I was like, geez, this is horrible. And he was a nice little guy. And then he grows on you. He's a sweetheart. So what do you do?
What do you do?
Yeah.
Very good. So there's a few other subjects I wanted to go through around, like, could be I've got health on the list. That's one thing that's dramatically changed for me. What about you?
I'm getting old.
And how you see it, not your maybe particular health or anything. I'm not looking for a history, but how you see things. Is there anything changed?
I pulled back from a lot of the stuff, and I've just doubled down on, for me, the best thing that you can do, the absolute best thing, is good, clean water and nutrient dense food. And that means growing your own food. That means doing it naturally. My stuff has got 3 different layers of grass-fed animal. I don't go out and give my animals nasty things, and their manure is what's feeding my plants. And there's this whole recycling going on where these nutrients are just getting jammed into things. Our tomatoes last year, you would shit yourself with the way they tasted. They were so delicious, all of our stuff, but our tomatoes were just crazy. And I don't even like salsa. And Christy made some salsa. I don't like fresh salsa. It's like chunky. And those tomatoes, they were just so delicious. But if you have proper, good, nutrient dense food, you shouldn't need to take a bunch of supplements. If you aren't taking in a bunch of toxins, you shouldn't be needing to detoxify. Not saying that you don't occasionally need that. Every now and then the alpacas get sick. I've got ivermectin in the damn medicine cabinet.
No.
It won't happen often, but that's ivermectin's great when it's needed. When the alpacas are sick, and the alpacas are real susceptible to parasites. They're what you call a communal shitter, and the reason that they're a communal shitter is because they don't have a biome that can deal with parasites. Now scatter shitters, they have strong biomes, so They poop anywhere, and they'll eat where they poop. They don't care. Alpacas go off and poop in a corner, and they're like, food here, poop here.
Right. So, but what changed for you? Did anything change for you? I'm hearing your
that I pulled all back a lot of those things. Stopped doing any of those for the most part, doing any of the catchy health things, and just went to just good straight food.
Yeah.
And really concentrated on that. And I don't outside of that, and I'm down to probably a little bit under half a pack of cigarettes a day.
Nice.
And I'm doing rollies instead of the pre-rolls and all that.
Nice.
So nice. I've just about quit that because I am getting older. The mountain is it was starting to win me a little bit. I needed to back off the cigarettes, but I want to quit those. My kids have been nagging me for years to do it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the big changes that people went through especially when our own medical system, which was already pretty inaccessible to me, like I didn't want much of anything to do with it anyway. But when I saw the writing on the wall that, they literally wouldn't let you in without poison injections and face covers and those kind of things, it's like, well, better not be getting sick, right? And it's still, other things can happen. It doesn't have to be just sickness. And one of the things, I used to say that I have healed from cancer. Now my perspective on that is I have survived cancer. I didn't heal from it. I survived it. I didn't die. And that's very good, right? It's like means healing is still possible. But so what I see now also, that my view of that, I shouldn't say that word too much. It's highly censorable, but just say big C kind of thing. But how I see that is different, that it's just advanced toxicity. It's not like out of control rogue cells. And so I'm very much still healing from that toxicity. Absolutely. 100%. But not to get into too much, like trying to argue the positions. I'm just saying how it's changed for me.
No, I don't disagree with you on the toxicity. I think the toxicity causes the out of control cells. Because if you have a Lego building and you start jamming Duplo blocks in there, and all of a sudden your shit starts looking weird. Well, yeah, because you are, and this goes back to the putting in the proper nutritious building blocks of your body, because we all know our body's consistently rebuilding its cells. And that's a good thing as long as it's got good materials to rebuild it. If the materials it has to rebuild it are Diet Coke and ramen soups, it's going to do the best that it fucking can. Like you did not give it the things that it needs.
Right. Well, that's another thing that that I did not see. So things accumulate. Toxicity accumulates over time. So things, and that's where you get a lot of the health gurus and the Twitter space or whatever. And they're like 20 somethings and 30 somethings. Well, they haven't hit that place where the toxicity added up yet. and they will be humbled by that. And all of their truth is going to have to come under the microscope again because it's not going to work for them. And also freedom accumulates. So that's something that's very nice on that side. But yeah, oh, anonymous guest is here. So yeah,
Nice.
and it really is. I just have to give credit if this is a record of all the changes. I have to give credit to Dr. Garrett Smith, nutrition detective on YouTube, who I've never really become a champion for anybody else's work. I'm sorry to say, I'm very self-involved. I really am always carrying my own flag. But this year, when I saw the truth of it, when I, for the first time in my entire life, have been able to make sense of my health, that things make sense, that there's logic, and there's ways, not unrelated to what you're saying in terms of the food. We won't go super deep into it because I have interviewed Garrett 3 times and I've been on his podcast, and, people can go and look him up and go deep down into that. But this is something that I honestly, I could have gone to my death not being able to make sense of things. And I have made enormous progress in the last 8, now going on 9 months, where things I thought I just had to live with forever have changed. So it's a miraculous event for me. And like, just the truth world has been such a shit show because it's become the marketplace, and the selling of the supplement, and the selling, we become so fixed on the remedies. So you got this ailment and then we got that remedy, and you just need to take it for the rest of your life. And you start seeing how, oh my goodness, on both sides of the so-called camp, they've got the same messages, right?
Yeah, they both want the magic pill. I want the organic magic pill.
Yeah, they want the magic pill. They want, that's right. Exactly. You got it. It's exactly it. And then that message, yeah, that progesterone cream, it works, but you got to be on it for the whole life. It's like, then it doesn't work. You didn't heal. Then you're just managing. But as it turns out in reality, it's really just suppressing your body's natural detox functions, which if they were left without massive amounts of toxicity coming in, and you had the right building blocks to build the things that would carry them out, you're absolutely right. Then a lot of things can start to take care of themselves. So yeah, the truth world and the capitalizing on every stupid remedy that comes and goes. And you can go through the history and you can see, like, methylene blue, for example, became popular in the truth world. There's now, I call them truth or drugs. And sorry to throw your ivermectin in there, but you got the methylene blue and you got the femben.
I don't take, to clear that up, I don't inject myself with ivermectin.
Good.
I don't have.
Excellent.
But to also clear that up, but also ivermectin works like a motherfucker. If animals get parasites, which they do because they go out and eat poopy stuff off the ground, then I don't do that. I just don't know what to tell you. I don't have a toxicity problem, but occasionally animals get a toxicity problem. I don't usually get ringworm or tapeworms or things like that, but they do. And ivermectin works real good on that.
Right. Well, I won't go super deep into it right now. Maybe we could have an offline conversation about it, and there could be something there for you. But so yeah, all these truth or drugs, and they were so proud that they didn't get the poison injections, and they didn't do the mRNA, which could be all fake and gay too. But then they turn around and they take these other medications. Well, guess what? They fucking got you. They got you, right? Like, it's just, anyway. So that's.
We did start this with good clean water and good clean food. The people that need ivermectin, won the Nobel Peace Prize because of Africa. We've all seen the videos with the African kids with the fucking worms under their skin, and they're like rolling. I'm like, yeah, he's got a real parasite problem. He's been drinking some water with like some swimmies in it. Like, I don't do that.
And we'll stop on this topic, and then I'll keep on having something to say over and over and over again, because I've been deep in this one. So we can talk it out a little bit offline if you like. But yeah, just the taking that concept of constantly looking for the remedy, madly looking for the remedy, having some little tiny thing, that I hear, oh, take this. And then I run and I pound that stuff. I don't pound anything anymore. I'm much more cautious, much more respectful, much more aware. When the natural health world says they're detoxing, actually, no, you are poisoned. You're not detoxing, you are poisoned. That's poison in your brain, you got a headache. That's poison in your face, you got a sinus infection. That's poison in your lungs, you're coughing it up. That's that rash and eczema. This is not detox. This is everything gone wrong. And then, the bottom line that I've concluded, I'm saying, making a bold claim that natural health is equally as weaponized against us, if not more, than mainstream medicine. So there we're agreeing from your nodding head. And
100%. And I 100% agreed with the buildup of the toxicities and things like that. I 100% agree with these things.
Yeah.
And that you can't clean out 50 years of toxicity dumping in your body in 2 weeks. I don't care what magic pill they give you. So if you keep taking different magic pills because you still don't feel better, it takes a solid 7 years for your body to rebuild. So during that 7 years, it's going to be ugly. In fact, my great-grandfather, when he was old and my great-grandmother had passed away, this lady came in, was caretaking for him and was stealing from him and was giving him freaking arsenic pills. And he was dying from fucking being poisoned. Well, when he went in, he had to go to the hospital. Well, then the hospital, they just start giving him what they're going to give him. And he started having seizures. Well, they sent somebody back to his house and got all of his pills. They come back and they start looking at the pills, and some of them are arsenic pills. Well, freaking, now his body is actually suffering from the lack of toxicity. Your body has literally gotten used to that poison, and now that poison's gone, your body's like, hey, what the hell? This is how we've been working. And the same thing happens when you're an alcoholic, when you're a drug addict. You can put any kind of poison. We are crazy the way we can live through most situations. But
I know
it does the damage though.
Yeah, exactly. We get addicted to the poison. That was another huge awakening. It's not news, because you can see people addicted. My parents on their deathbed, they couldn't stop drinking. Why? Because they would have killed them. They were already on their deathbed.
I just had a cousin who's 2 years older than me drink himself to death. Not even 2, a year and a half older than me, and he just drank himself to death. It was weird. I just seen him in October and was talking to him and hanging out with him. And then my mom called last week and was like, your cousin Tom died. Drank himself to death. Like, fuck.
John, I'm sorry for your loss. Yeah, brutal. And I just wanted to acknowledge this comment. Here I am, said, thank you so much. You learned about Dr. Smith from the first interview. It was perfectly timed. You were ill that day and it was new to you. And it's the first yellow squash you'd eaten from the garden. Yeah, so a lot of things have changed. My diet has incredibly simplified. I have a lot more time on my hands because of that. I'm now in my garden, because we grow at the farm. I'm going to let that be my primary, like where I put my sweat equity in every single week, and we just go and we do the thing. And the farmer is so much smarter than me. And every decision he's made about the land has worked. Everything I would have suggested was not good. It failed in my
head. Why Christy listens to me. I let her do some decisions when we first, like the first year. I let her try some of those things on a limited basis. I'm not going to let her wreck the farm, but I let her try out some things, and she's like, fuck.
I had to humble myself and say, oh, thank God you've been calling the shots here, because everything you've done has worked. It's amazing. So yeah, we got ourselves to a place where we don't battle the weeds. The soil has become rich and juicy and full of matter and worms, and like we transformed. It was sand. It was freaking sand. I said to myself, nothing's going to grow here, and that guy has made it happen. So pretty.
The sand's the best starting point, in my opinion. Have you seen Kiss the Ground?
No, that sounds good.
And Elaine Ingham. You need to check out Elaine Ingham and Kiss the Ground. She's like world's leading soil biologists. This is who I learned my stuff from. And she went into deserts, and within weeks we'll have them in green, just food gardens, because the fungi, which is what your real basis of what you're working with when we're talking about the way the soil's working, the fungi is your mastermind down there, right? And that it fills in all that gap in the sand. It's like it gives it just room to just bloosh. And once that gets taken over, as long as you keep that fungi alive and moist, oh baby, now we're talking. Now all your microorganisms, and that now we're talking about a balance between all your different microorganisms, which is what actually sets your pH. And so if you get that balanced, oh geez, it's the good stuff. And then when you start learning, and this is again something with your body, this is part of why I'm an anti-toxicity person. Again, I wasn't recommending inject yourself with ivermectin, people.
Yep,
Remember
we get
that.
it. Absolutely.
So I'm anti-toxicity because, like in my garden, I don't pick weeds, because weeds, if there a weed appears, and this is an actual fact, if you set perfect soil, food that you eat will grow in that soil. Weeds, they don't like that soil. That soil is too base. It's not acidic enough. And there's another one. The whole base community. That's not what they call it though. What do we call it? Alkali one. Yeah. Nothing grows in alkali. There's like one bacteria in the whole world that grows in an alkali environment. Everything else grows in acid.
Right. And go look up alkalosis. I was hearing about this exact thing on Garrett's stream yesterday. Yeah. That was a complete slap. Luckily, my naturopath knew all about it, because that's what they said. Oh, you have cancer, then it's just because you're too acidic. Well, it just couldn't be further from the truth.
Cancer cells won't grow in a base environment. Neither will anything else.
Right.
What good does that tell me? You just nuked the whole fucking system, you jackass.
Yeah, right? And it's a gross oversimplification, because the pH of different parts of the body, first level of defense, totally acidic and needs to be. So you 100%. Don't, right? I had a mentor literally died guzzling the baking soda. So yeah, that doesn't work at all.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. This is a good one to know, principle. All roads lead to love your liver for some reason in my world right now. All the conversations end up going that direction, but poison on the way in, poison on the way out. That's a really good thing to understand.
100%. Yeah. And it's going to take time. That's going to take time. It takes years. And the fact is no matter how clean a life you have, a thing that if you start looking at Matt Powers and researching him, and this is, to me, it's kind of a in-between terrain theory and germ theory, where it's called horizontal DNA transfer. So literally everything you touch in the environment, you transfer DNA with, whether it's through the air, through touching it with your skin. Your skin's the biggest giant absorber of anything. Your whole body is covered with this giant absorbent freaking skin that everything it touches, it exchanges something with. And so, and this feature is beautiful, because what it does is, whatever environment you live in, your body starts making adjustments to that. Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes those adjustments don't come out good, and you shouldn't necessarily be around those things, and you have to start learning that and whatnot. So I'm not a toxicity guy. A lot of times when you have something like that, it's cleaning out something else. It's something in your environment you should learn to avoid, like poison oak. I have a horrible reaction to poison oak. I see poison oak, I will just steer the fuck around it. Like, there's no reason for me to dick with it. It's just how it is. Some people don't. Like the Mexican guys that I've seen out here, I swear they just march right through it. They don't even look at it. It's like, hey, you're in a whole thing of poison oak, and they'll just look at it. Okay. Like,
yeah. I used to be
okay.
Yeah. I used to be hypersensitive. After all that chemo, I had an explosion of poison ivy in my body. I know it was awful. It was awful. And then every single year, without even contacting it, I would have a breakout of the stupid poison ivy. And about 7 years it took me until I wasn't so poisonous that
Right.
all of that
The
would
latent
have to
toxicity was
express.
sitting in your system, and then once you reached a point where the conditions were right for that to express itself, it did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Possibly my liver was able to take on that toxicity rather than recirculate and have to use my skin as a way to express it. And nice to have you here, Dagmar. I love you, and I love your black banana bread. That's become famous in my world. I shared it on Twitter the other day, and there's
Nice.
other people. Yeah, it's really, really good. You'd love it, actually.
Send it.
It's right up your alley. I will send you the recipe. It's super good. I added some spelt to it and have a few
One of
little
my
tricks.
best friends is over banana bread. Miss Georgia. She
Okay.
was asked shit out of luck. She got trapped in the winter and a tree fell across her, was falling across her garage, and her generator went out and she needed it pulled out and changed. And I showed up and did that, and she made banana bread, and we've been great friends since.
Nice. That's great. I'll send you guys this recipe. I bet you'll like it. Yeah, yeah, it's really nice. Let's see, where should we go? So that was on the health. I wanted to speak about that.
I wanted to just tell one quick story. One of the other ones, again, try these things out, and I get it. Try them out. DMSO was one for me. And when I put on we were trying DMSO in some of my wife's products, and her comfort cream, it's fairly well known. Her comfort cream's amazing. So we put in DMSO, and I will admit it worked way faster and it worked better. Now, here's the second part of the story, the Paul Harvey. That's the rest of the story. I felt so great. I ran outside, started doing yard work, and accidentally some poison oak bumped against me somewhere. Now, because of that DMSO on my skin, now that made it so my skin was super susceptible. I had no defense, and I went septic, and my whole body. I mean, my eyelids were swollen, my junk was all swollen, like everything. Instead of getting just a spot of where it brushed against me, it systemically got through my whole body, and that was because I had DMSO on.
Yeah.
And,
So we'll have an offline conversation about that too. I used it intensely. I really gave it a go. It has a duration paradox. It works at the beginning, makes you believe in it, but is not good for you. So I won't go any further about that, but I'm very, very clear and very glad to not use that anymore. I can't recommend it. So just to be clear, I like to jump topics right now, and I wanted to come clean, I was going to say, but one of the things that I've been into in the last 5 years, big time, is the law. Now, I always said it. I have no interest in public law. I have no interest in fake alternative law either. But I did about, I don't know, 150 interviews, maybe 200, trying desperately to find solutions, knowing that what was being done to us couldn't be lawful. And that's when we were encroached upon by the massive movement in the alternative law. And you got the gurus popping up from every single corner, and they all have the solution and different little, nuances and secrets that they know, and the behind the scenes crap and bullshit. I'm going to swear a lot in this stream. And, so we went down those rabbit holes, wasted a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money. A lot of people are still back there, right? And they talk about the birth certificate like it's some magic trust. And when I started interviewing Brandon Sterling and getting some of them,
the trust one where they're supposed to pay your bills and all that, is that what you're talking about? Oh my God, that was so bad. Exactly. That was so bad.
I know. Sorry for the sirens. It's really big here for some reason all of a sudden.
You know what? I've been watching the protests for like 4 days, and so I've been hearing sirens for like 4 days in a row. I didn't even really notice.
There you go. Right, exactly. Yeah, it gets bad here sometimes. And so I supported, we created law groups, a Manitoba Lawful Action Group and the Canadian Court Procedure Group. And, I supported Stand For Thee for a time, and not supported, but, was interviewing them. And I came out the other side seeing that there's two real things in all of that. It is basic court procedure. If you're going to tangle in the public arena, if you don't have that stuff, you're not in good shape. It doesn't matter what you know and what you believe. Some people have defied it, because of, individual circumstances. I've got a client who just won in court using some of that stuff that I would say is not real. Kudos to her, hats off to her, whatever. She had a good experience. That's fantastic. But I cannot recommend that. You can go back in my archives and listen to all kinds of law interviews on Spotify and iTunes since my YouTube channel was taken down. And I just, for the record, I can't stand behind nearly any of that. The prevalence of grifters in that world, outright liars. I think there's a good amount of them that's how they didn't go to jail. They agreed to go and spread disinformation or whatever it is. That's how they get to be free in the world. And, there was a woman who was really, really badly taken advantage of based on one of my interviews of Daniel David. What was his name? Shoot, I don't remember his name all of a sudden, but, so they ended up having a really bad experience with him, and he made their life absolute hell. And he's like wanted, and so just like so much crap in there. I can't stand by any of it. I still keep the Canadian Court Procedure Group open because there was enough people in there that were willing to just zero in on the facts and not talk about theories and, share strategies and paperwork and what they were going through. It's still open. If anyone, wanted to join that, you could reach out to me. I don't know anything. Like, honestly, if I make a single comment on there, all I do is expose my ignorance. The more I studied, the less I knew. It just became an absolute jumble. And, I made the vow to myself that I'm just going to do everything possible to stay out of the public arena. And that's that. Now, in the private domain, this was a big thing too, because they were ready for us, knowing that we were desperate for solutions. And I glommed onto some of those characters in that show, and all of the things that they shared about the private domain, mostly a bunch of garbage, right? So I created the House of Free Will. I was, thinking, okay, we need to prepare for the end times and have a good community. I'm not going to uncreate the House of Free Will. It has developed into a nice little, tiny, beautiful, intimate connection with people. It is where I share my most private reflections and my knowledge and my work and things about my own life that I won't come on a podcast and share about anymore. That I don't need to be a target for that. And, but all of the woo-woo around the private, that's nothing. I did not change my status. You can't change your status. What you don't own, you don't control. Don't fool yourself. We are indentured slaves in a system, several generations into it. And sure, the spirit is free. I know freedom very, very well inside myself. But this is all just a pile of crap. So the House of Free Will still exists, but I'm just me, right? And I'm taking the word ministry out because all that does is flag you. Don't be thinking that that's going to make it easier for you with the government. The 508c13 is a tax code. That is not a PMA. That's not an organization, right? So all of this stuff that people still will come to me and say these things. I still get a couple of people reaching out. They want me to show them how to create a PMA. Well, it is a financial and a legal designation that is to protect you from charging. It is basically charging order protection to protect you from getting sued, from the liabilities. Well, I don't really have that in my world because I only work with people that are self-responsible. I make them sign agreements that they could bust through. The law isn't going to, that agreement won't stand up in a court of law.
A lot of people don't seem to understand the difference between civil matters and legal and actual criminal matters. And at best, those contracts getting broken are a civil matter. You're like, she said she was going to do this and she didn't. And now my business has suffered because of it. And this is the monetary damages that I want for said. And that's the best you get out of this.
Exactly. Shout out to Canucks Law here in Canada, who is one of the credible sources that she digs in and researches like anything, and she's all about the facts. I can't get her on a podcast, unfortunately. I was like lusting for that. And there isn't again, a week that goes by that she doesn't publish somebody's case, and it's like, oh yeah, they filed in the wrong court, and the judge said the paperwork was garbage, and this 1,000-page document just didn't go anywhere. But meanwhile, they're all campaigning for you to donate, and you're saving everything and everyone, and these people are still giving their money, right? Rocco Galati completely exposed, and people are still going, oh, poor Rocco Galati and everything. I don't need to go into all the minutia. But
No, for me, as I've said, I've been to prison, and this was many years ago, and I fought like hell. There was shenanigans in my stuff, and I spent, I'm going to say, 2 years probably in a courtroom. And I saw the way they do things, the way that things go on. You hit the nail on the head with the first thing you've got to do. Most people would assume the first thing you do is read the law books. No. First thing you do is read the court procedures. Because the way that court does shit, that's how that shit's going to go down. It doesn't matter what the law books say. You're like, no, it's supposed to be like this. It don't matter. It don't matter. Guess what? You're going to do what they say you're going to do. They got the guns. They got the power. They're sitting in there. And yes, you have free will, but we live in a shared reality. And in that shared reality, they've been given the dominant power. And that's the way most people see it. And so guess what? You're lesser than most people. Not saying individually, saying a group of people more than you outweigh you. And so that's the way this is going to go down. And I've seen them break their own laws consistently, do it right in front of the fucking lawyers. They don't give a shit unless it's something big and bad enough that it can get overturned by an upper court, which almost never happens. Like, yes, I understand it happens once a day or something, but out of like 1 billion cases, 1,000 of them or 2,000, the small fraction of them gets overturned. Like those courts, it's hard to even get into them. You could spend years trying to get into them, especially for something stupid.
Exactly. Yeah, a minimum of 2 to 5 years, and there's absolutely no guarantee whatsoever of success. And yes, they break their own laws every single day, and because people don't know the law, then that's allowed to happen.
Even if you know it and say that, they don't care. Yeah. Like he's like, guess what? End of the day, I'm the guy wearing the robe. I'm the guy with the stick. This guy here with the gun's going to do whatever the fuck I say. You're going to shut up. You're in handcuffs. Like that's how this works out. And yes, if it's a big enough grievance and you have enough money to push it through, maybe you get an upper court to overturn it, and then you go and have to go through the case entirely all over again. And now that county has a grudge against you. Like at best, you get yutzes like that Paul Enslaved who got off once on driving with no license. You know where he was? Denver. You know how packed those courts are. I've had buddies that got pulled over for legitimate things, and the courts are like, the courts send them letters like, don't do it again, but don't come to court either. Like, it's horribly expensive to run court systems. A jury trials cost something like $250,000 for a basic jury trial. Right. Like they're overrun, broke. You can get off being a jackass, but that doesn't mean that you actually won the law. If they actually decide that you're a burr in their ass, they're going to pull you. Like that's the way that's going to be.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to be too, like black-pilled about it, because there are people that are, I've seen some successes, but unless you're willing to make that your whole life, then I wouldn't touch it with a 1,000-foot pole. And I feel sad for anybody that gets pulled into it against their own choice, that especially in family law, that was the most disillusioning thing of ever. There's no remedy. There's zero remedy. It is an absolute shit show in the I was so incredibly fortunate. I could have gone that direction with my ex, and I had the foresight to not, because I had a girlfriend that was in the hole for 200 grand already, thanks to her ex pulling her in. He was absolutely in the wrong every single time, but he could find some slimeball to represent him and keep going and keep costing her. And the parents had deep pockets. So that will not be me. I'm learning from that. And
at some point, you got to know pick your damn battles, people. Pick your battles.
Exactly.
That's the moral of this story.
Right. Exactly. And I, to this day, I have an amicable relationship. I have transformed that doing the inner work, seeing inside myself what was creating that conflict? What was entertaining that conflict? What was cooperating with that conflict? Even though, maybe the guy hasn't changed at all, but I have. And it has made it so that we have total harmony in our dealings, right? We're not best friends, but there's absolute harmony, 100%. So that's a beautiful thing. And, if you can avoid taking your personal private life into the public at all cost, please do. This is, if you have to cut off your head and kill your ego, like, it's all worth it. Just don't do that. Anyway,
This is part of why almost nobody even knows that Christy's a voice in the background to most people. Like the inner workings of my personal relationship, they aren't particularly open. I'll make jokes about stupid little things, but I don't talk about the stuff that we're going through, all that kind of thing. And we go through hardships. We definitely do. There's no doubt. But that's nobody's business but mine. I'll deal with it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Oh, I just heard this year, and I realized I made a big mistake that apparently, and you guys can tell me, Ben, you can share that a man does not want to have a relationship with a woman who has a public presence of any kind.
100%. 100%. It's and if it is, it needs to be like a very secondary thing. And this is a confusion. Again, this is where ideas and the way the world actually works, they don't necessarily meet. And it would be nice if we all were exactly the same. Sure. If we all had the exact same abilities, sure, then nobody's got an advantage. But that's just not how the world's worked and is built. And
what would be your reason that you agree 100% that you wouldn't want to be with a woman who has a public life?
Because then she's got her own agenda. And it's not mine. And at the end of the day, my agenda rules this place.
Right. But it would be okay if it was a secondary thing.
If it was a secondary, right. If, like we don't have children, that we're raising, we're grandparent age. And if she wanted to write a book or something like that. But at the end of the day, Chris, this farm supports both of us. Mm-hmm. And I'm the one who's the decision maker on this farm. And all the energy goes into keeping this up. Now, this is at one point in time when Christy and I were not married and we were just dating, and she was on, at first when she moved on to the farm, we weren't dating. And then we started dating, and then Christy was not putting into the farm, and she's like, oh, but I go to town. And she was basically separating herself from the farm because she had her massage business and everything else. And her thing was separate from our thing. And I'll go buy some groceries. Right? No. You're not separate from the farm. You put in as much to the farm as the rest of us. You need to put your heart and soul into this just like the rest of us, because otherwise you're a transient. And we do not want no fucking transients, because you know what transients do? Transients show up at harvest time, and they are not around for spring plant. You even out here every year, come harvest time, there is people wanting to come hang out at your place in droves, hanging out in the grocery store parking lots. Walk up, you need helpers? They show up in droves at harvest time. Spring planting time, when all the hard work is due, because every year that's the way this cycle works. There's nobody surprisingly, not a single fucking person waiting in that parking lot. There might be a couple beggars out on the sidewalks. They sure aren't trying to come help you to get a meal, though. They just want you to hand them one. And so this is the way it works in the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That you want that team of the man and the woman to be normal and natural. That is a place of enormous agreement between you and I. Totally get it.
And now, the same objective, the same goal.
Exactly, the same goal, not competing goals, because that is the downfall of every single relationship that I've personally witnessed and seen. And so the reason in this case that I heard that a man wouldn't have a relationship with a woman who had a public presence is because of their privacy. that's something that is really important to men, and then that's been weaponized against women. And so that's so sad. That's just so sad that they've been the victim of public shamings. Like, there's billboards, you go down the street and it's like, oh, did your naked picture show up on the internet? And all of that kind of massive breaches that the internet has made possible of sacred privacy of conversations. And that's the thing, that if you're going to have a relationship with somebody, it's, you make yourself more vulnerable than anywhere, and then it's just been weaponized, maybe against men in particular. Do you think?
Yeah, actually, the origin of getting down on one knee is because this comes from heathen society, Odin's, and it was, you took an arrow to the knee. As soon as you took on a wife, it was like being a wounded man. You are now not this impervious machine. You've now got vulnerabilities, and that's it's absolutely, and especially, and this is hard to hear, because I know that and I'm not saying it's not possible. Absolutely, there's women that are known for their mind or their personality, but 99% of it is sexuality. That's what women get famous for. That's what they're flaunting. You just don't see a whole lot of women that just specifically, there's no sexuality tied to their fame. And they get it easy. If you're a reasonably attractive girl and you do like a sexy dance video or something, you've suddenly got 100,000 followers overnight, and they're ready to throw money at you and everything else. And so this is the thing, is then now not only is my privacy ruined, but also this is Christy's mine. She's not yours. Like, I don't need you lusting after her. That doesn't make me feel better. Like, and don't get me wrong, when my guys do I don't get all butthurt about it. I'm not a jealous guy, because my wife don't give a fuck about you. Like, I'm perfectly comfortable in my place, and I understand where you're coming from. I think she's sexy as hell. But do I need the world sitting there checking that out? No, this is the wholesomeness of my home, the heart of my home. It's not yours. It's not yours to lust after. Get the fuck out of here.
And has that changed for you in any way over the last 5 years, or were you, again, pretty solid in that?
No, I've been like that for a very long time.
Nice.
Nice. That's something Christy made a lot of adjustments for. She comes from very liberal California, so she had to move into the more traditional role and gain a lot. And it's been a long road to hoe, because that requires a lot of trust and understanding. Because at the end of the day, while I say this thing, oh, I'm the decision maker and blah blah, if my decisions aren't good, guess then I don't eat, she doesn't eat, we all suffer. And that's all bad too. And then if I'm living good and my wife isn't, then that's all bad too. Then my heart of my home is not feeling good. And if your heart's not in healthy, then the whole system's fucked. So those decisions need to come with a proof that her best intentions are included in that her trust has been well placed. And this is part of why I'm very big on, to me, a true alpha man, a leader of a man, it's only through husbandry that happens. And the first husbandry, like, I'm big on having a dog, having a farm. You will notice whether that person takes good care of the things that can't speak back to him. You can't talk to your dog and ask it what's going on. You need to notice that needs to be a thing. Oh, why is he limping a little bit? Why is he walking funny? Why is he gotten a little bit fatter here? Like not too long ago, I had to get Portier castrated. Because he has too much testosterone, and his prostate swelled up, and he couldn't pee and he couldn't poop, and he got big like a sausage in back. And I saw he couldn't pee, and I was like, what the hell's going on here? And he didn't tell me he couldn't pee. He was going out and lifting his leg and doing all that. Well, if you're not good at the husbandry thing, the things under you suffer. And so this is, and where the woman's responsibility is the going and picking the guy who shows good husbandry skills. I understand it's not as exciting. Just like for the guys, I understand the exciting girl, the one that puts out, that'll have sex with you in all the weird ways and all that. That's exciting. But if she's not going to be a loving mother, then why are you putting your seed there? Why are you planting your future there? You know it's going to be wrecked. That's idiocy. And for women, it's if you look at the dude, your first judgment should be, is he a good husband? Has he shown good husbandry skills? And that's going to tell you whether your life is going to be a good one and taken care of. And I understand that everybody's got the damn romance novels and shit like that. Well, that's not reality, and those dudes aren't good husbands. They're douchebags. And so the husbandry is the key, and that's what's going to tell you whether that system's going to work out for you. That's what you need to look at. And Christy got to see that through the farm before we were ever married, and that my decisions, even when they went against hers, she realized, like I said, I let her have those decisions occasionally. And she said, no, what he's thinking is the right way, and everything benefits from it. Yeah, I want a piece of that. I want to put myself in that system. So it's good for all of us.
There you go. Yeah, I wanted to speak to this because quite often I get this comment about like the King Hero's journey, and then people would go, "Oh, you're the queen," and I'm like, "No, that's not what's," or as if that's the queen is the equivalent of the king. No, absolutely not. It's not even the same archetype. Right. The queen is more of an alchemist. This is one of the things that developed out of me. I haven't manifested anything yet, but the 8 archetypes of the hero's journey that I write about in my book, they've all unpacked into a whole bunch of not other archetypes, but ones that are like in that family. And the queen is definitely an alchemist, right? Supporting and counseling the king where needed or necessary, being the support for his rule, right? So yeah, they try to swap out the king and the queen, but that's just the trying to get the women to be the kings, which never works, right? So
it's trying to make the woman into an equivalent ruler, and the man is the law and the woman is the heart. And so actually the perfect example of what you're saying right now is with Gavin Newsom. So if you go and look this up, there is an uprising. People are pissed because Gavin Newsom's wife during this protest has been seen going into the spa and, and what's that? In LA, going and hanging out in the spa and, hanging out for spa days and things like that. Well, the queen is supposed to be the one that understands the plight of the people, understands the heart of the people. And the queen is the one that's supposed to go and have the king's ear and say, hey, people aren't really liking this. And on the flip side, she's also the one that when the king's like, so one of my favorite ways to put it is with kids. When I'm the law, I have to punish them when they do things, but they don't understand the thing yet. They don't have it in their heart. They just understand the way the law worked. Like it came down right here. This is the line in the sand. Well, then Christy is supposed to go behind. And unfortunately, this system's broken a lot because women went to try to be kids' best friends and not supporting the system. The way it's supposed to work is she's supposed to then go and explain what happened to the kid also. So, maybe you talk to the husband, but also you're the one who talks to the kid. So you're like, hey, I understand that spanking sucked, but your dad did that because you tried to drink poison. And if you do that, it's going to harm you and you're going to die and we're all going to be very sad and you're not going to be around. And I understand that sucked what he did, but you have to understand that this cannot happen. You cannot do this. So he was showing you how much he loves you by not letting you do this and setting up a boundary that you cannot cross. And that's a loving thing to do. This isn't, oh, dad hurt me and he's the bad guy because he hurt me and I got punished, without any self-recognition of you were doing a thing that was outside of bounds. And it was a loving thing to set that boundary up. And instead, and I suffered this with my ex-wife, where she would go be the kids' friend and any punishment I put in place was too harsh. It didn't matter what it was. And she was then the beseecher on their side. So in the kids' mind, now I'm just an asshole that just hurt them for no reason, and she's their friend. And so now the things that they were doing were okay, and they weren't.
Yeah.
And so you've totally wrecked the system with that.
I was victim to that exact same thing on the other side. Exactly. I was trying to have the boundaries. There's no boundaries on the other side. And then it was a loss for me. So yeah, how tragic that inversion becomes. And this is a good apocalypse chicken. That sounds like a good recipe, Dagmar. You should be making that one. Some really good things.
Chickens are a good way to start. There's no doubt. It's a consistent source of food. Lay eggs like mad. It's you can't. I personally don't eat my chickens. I'm a vegetarian. I don't. I do eat eggs. I do eat dairy products, milk, cheese, butter, all that stuff. But I have the understanding, and I'm a farmer. I totally understand that chickens don't care about those eggs. They drop them off all over the farm. When they actually want those eggs, they will do what's called clutching, and they will gather them up. And it's only after a chicken sat on the egg for 3 days that the egg germinates and becomes a life. Other than that, there was never a life in that thing. It was never going to be germinated. It's just going to lay out on your yard. Something's going to come eat it. You're probably going to bring in predators by leaving it lay there, because I promise skunks and foxes and all those things will start hanging out. You start leaving good food around. And
yeah, I won't go do any egg bashing right now. I used to be really into it, but I'll one last subject. Do you have time?
I'm just saying, I don't eat the birds themselves.
yeah, exactly. But do you have time for one more
100%.
section? Okay. So how did work change for you? You've talked about, your homestead. You also have some like livelihood, some trades. You're a jeweler, beautiful jeweler, by the way, amazing creations. And I know you've made some remedies and gut bombs or whatever, those kind of things. How has it changed for you since 2020?
Obviously, a lot of those things went a lot better when I was putting more effort. It's such an interesting thing, right? So if I put the heavy effort into making those things, then I don't have any sales. If I put the heavy effort into going out and exposing myself, and having popularity, well, then people, and I actually knew this from when I used to have a crystal business. If you were one of the keynote speakers, your shit sold, it didn't matter. If you were one of the other people just there vending, everybody wants what the speakers are talking about. So you just got to hit me up personally. I had to bail on my store. Just hit Benjamin Balderson on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever. And I'm actually getting ready to post my wraps, but that's all really slowed down severely. I've had to, again, gear up more into the farm. We had too many cows. I just sold some cows. The price of cows is crazy though.
That's good.
Yeah.
You're selling. That's good.
Yeah. Well, I had I'd gotten up to 8 cows on my land, which is more than I need. And one of them was pregnant still. And one was a heifer that needed to get pregnant. And I was like, oh cripes, I can't do this. This is too many. And then, so I've had to push toward that. And again, once I quit doing all the interviews and whatnot, that all fell off, because nobody's really hitting that up if you're not big and popular. So that's all fallen off. And I've mostly had to go into just doing extractions for people around here, things like that. And I'm actually an electrician and a mechanic. So yeah.
Yeah, you're a man of many skills. I love that. And so for me, the big thing that changed in 2020 was I decided to, instead of crying on the floor, I decided to start teaching the work that I did as a coach and how I did that. I'd never had to I've never put myself to the task of decoding all of that work. How do I do what I do? Typical, feminine approach is it's all intuitive, and there seems to be no knowledge in there. Well, it's now become a 7-month training, 26 modules, and I've run almost 90 people through it in 5.5 years, going on 6 years.
Nice.
Which is amazing. About to do the next training starting in September. So it's the 7th one coming up. And it's been the best education ever for me. Like, I'll just say that I got to learn, because otherwise it was just all this coded stuff. And how was I supposed to pass that on? So it's given me a platform to be able to really work through that. And shout out to one of my apprentices who might not be listening anymore, but Melanie Johannesson is actually doing a workshop. She's a graduated Journey Code coach, and she's also apprenticing now to train the coaches. So I've got 6 apprentices, which I thought would be way far in the future. But you know how when you have an idea and then all of a sudden it just starts resolving and coming into focus. And so she's doing a workshop in the House of Free Will for everybody there on somatic healing, which is something that is a good precursor to my work. Because if you don't have a felt sense of your own body, then it will be almost impossible to deprogram if you can't heal what you can't feel. So this is a really good inroad for that. It's free to any House of Free Will members. There's still time to join. I can watch out for applications tonight. And if you just visit my website, bethmartins.com, you'll see the section where you can find that application to the House of Free Will. I've just edited it to be current with my views. Some people would go to that page. Here's the last thing I didn't talk about, that I went through a strong Christian phase. It was as if I was reclaiming my Christian roots. It was because of all of the work in law led to the King James Bible. And I had this big awakening when all was lost. Jesus came to me. This was real. This is real. I still have a very strong connection to that archetype, that being, who knows, right? Like I make zero claims. I have no beliefs at all, just my own direct experience. I went down that Christian rabbit hole. I found nothing. It was like confusion and conflict and problems. It ruined the beginning of the House of Free Will. It ruined it. Because I had some evangelists in there, and I'm trying to be open, and I'm trying to be like right in the eyes of God and everything like that. Oh man, it turned away a bunch of good people. Very sad about that, because they were super outspoken and very aggressive with their views. So I just want everybody to know that the House of Free Will is not a religious organization. I have a relationship with God. I have a relationship with Jesus. That's my thing. I don't put that on anybody. We're not doing that in the House of Free Will. The fellowship is about connection. It's about relationships. It's about being able to get along over time, that stands the test of time, and that can go through a few bumps and a few things that normal life has, and to practice getting along with others. Because that, to me, I don't care how great your system of survival is, it's not going to work without the people. So that's what the House of Free Will is about. It's about education. It's about knowing each other. It's about, having relationships that I always hope turn into real, living, breathing, in-person relationships. But right now it's all virtual, and you don't have to be afraid of getting all Bible thumped or anything like that. I still have Christian roots. There's still something there that my DNA can speak to. If DNA is real or not, I don't know. But it's not what it started out to be. And so, for the record, just want you guys to know. And thanks for those of you that stuck with me along the way, watching me go through that phase. I came out the other side unscathed and with less Christian friends, let's say.
Well, evangelizing is a large portion of what a lot of them, believe. I unfortunately, outside of talking about it, I don't really evangelize. I don't walk around pushing Odinism because we don't have that feature in our thing. Like, it's just not there.
Exactly. I just wanted to make sense. I was innocent, like a little kid. I just wanted to make sense, and they couldn't make any sense, and they couldn't agree, and they couldn't be coherent inside their own thinking, and they didn't like some words that you would say. even though those words are in the Bible, like almost every single page, but then that was against the law and stuff like that. So it was just, you know, it messed with me. And then when they started to break up with me, that was a sign that I was in the wrong camp. Like it's, you know, yeah.
It's fascinating to me because not as a Canadian for you, but as an American, the literal founding was over rejection of the King James Bible, that King James had tried forcing his Bible and outlawing everybody else's, specifically the Geneva Bible, and had outlawed it and said, no, this Bible I had written, that's the only one allowed. And so that's what created the Pilgrims, the religious purists, because they're like, no, we don't accept that Bible. And so our country was founded on, and they ended up changing the name of the Geneva Bible to the Pilgrims Bible. And so the country was founded off the rejection of the King James Bible, and then for the entire law to be built around later on at some point. I don't know exactly when this transition happened, but eventually the law merges with the King James Bible. And that's super interesting because, like I said, the country is founded on the rejection of it.
Right. There you go. Anonymous is asking, you had the same experience. The word was oneness. They hate that word a lot. And it's like, oh, I and my Father are one. It's like it's all there, right? Like all the language is there in the actual text they claim to adhere to, and it's just not the case. I just wanted to quickly share a link to that workshop that's taking place at 2 p.m. Central tomorrow with Melanie Johannesson on the somatics. If anyone wants to come and make friends with their body, even though it's been weaponized against them and it feels like hell, because that's how the flesh and the bones has kind of turned out for us. But it's not a given, and it's not the end game, that's for sure. And then the book Religion Becomes Very Lonesome Highway. Yeah, it's really a matter of like eliminating and not you and not you and not you and not you and not you, and just become the snob of the universe. And then I started getting X'd by those not you people. I was like, okay, this isn't going well. So let's see. I might like this. I still like some things in the Bible. Not the Old Testament doesn't make any sense. Actually, shout out to Mark Archer, who I've interviewed and is a member of the House of Free Will. He's decoded a good section of that, and I like his take. It made a lot more. The Bible made more sense through his eyes, and he reads the actual Hebrew, and translates. So John 5:39, you pore over the scriptures because you presume that by them you possess eternal life. These are the very words that testify about me. 40, yet you refuse to come to me to have life. Maybe a typo in the 40 there?
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway. Yeah.
Here's 39, though. I'll bet you that means verse 40, that this first
thing. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See, yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, exactly. Yet you refuse to come to me to have life. Yeah, and I place life and death before you in Deuteronomy. Choose life. This I also very much choose with the living.
See, and here's where I have a problem, though. You're of course possessed by the devil. The you couldn't be here without that. That God, the Hebrew God, is the sulfur side, and they're all sulfur worshipers. Although sometimes they go into the All Mother, and so it depends on whether their God has a physical body or a non-physical body. Or no physical body. If it has no physical body, then they're talking about the All Mother. And then when it has, you're descending from something, then that's the sulfur side. The sulfur doesn't have a hard physical body like the negative side, the salt side, but it's still there. And, light is still got particles. It's still, just because it doesn't have measurable weight for us, there's still something there. Like when I turn on the light, it literally, my house is just Edison bulbs. It's just resistance going through a wire. And what's happening is that wire's deteriorating and them little particles are flying off. And once they lose energy and it disperses out into the air, then that goes somewhere. But there's still a thing there, straight up. But they don't recognize that the negative side, again, we can't be here without both. That's the whole deal. So they're the positive side saying the negative side, oh, demons are evil. This side's evil. Well, the other side thinks you're assholes too. Like, that's just how that works. And you can't be here without both sides.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll just say I get absolutely lost. My mind maybe dissociates when it comes to trying to go through the eye of the needle and nail down the cosmology or any of that kind of stuff. All the FE wars that we've been at a front row seat to for the last 5 years, and it's just so like, ugh. I'm gonna stay in my lane. I'm gonna keep my narrow little focus where I get to witness incredible miracles and changes in people's life and my own life, and that's good. I'm not going to get involved in the wars. I'm not going to pick sides, whether it's political. Red and blue equals purple, you guys. Good. Like, that's a big awakening for me. And just, what's life for? To preserve the time and the energy, right? I've given myself a lot of work to do, and I consider it to be important work, and I need to be available for that, not all lost in space or fake space or who cares anymore, right? So, yeah.
Nothing I'm ever going to have to deal with.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Oh, interesting, Purple Rain. Yep. You got booted away from questions for question. They hate that. They don't question anything. And that's, like you said towards the beginning, Ben, there's nothing that doesn't go under the microscope. You question everything. You're always doing that. And to me, that's like the ultimate. If you spend a lifetime doing that, then you're going to get a heck of a lot closer to the real truth than anyone who marries. They get married to the ideology and the ideas. Like, it's ideas. It's all mental, right? And then we lose the real.
But that's what they want. They don't want a question. They want a leader, and they want that leader to be correct. And because they want that, they're going to make sure that that's what happened. Again, they're living what we're talking about in their world. This dude's always correct, and everything that they see is just a confirmation that dude's correct, and or that system's correct or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they're living it, and that's fine. You can't really criticize people for this. It's one of those things that you understand. That was a hard thing that I had to learn, because I'm very left-hand path. Again, 2020, I was probably an anarchist. I'm no longer an anarchist. I understand that the first person that listens to my bullshit and follows it isn't left-hand path either. That guy's right-hand path. He's just listening to me and taking up my fucking torch. Like, so you can't be mad at people that don't really want to go and think about it themselves. They've decided that what you are representing or what this other person is representing, that's what they want. There's a reason that even as an occultist, we've always known there's a difference between esoteric and exoteric. Exoteric is for the masses, the majority. They don't want to know the deep inside secrets. They want to see the shiny veneer, and they're like, nice. And then they want that. They don't want to delve into the secrets. That's just not for everybody. Esoteric's always been a tiny portion of people.
Yeah. Yeah. The rare souls. That's what I realized, that I am a hunter of patterns and rare souls. That's my new, if I need an identity, that's what I am. And well, this has been a fabulous conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Do you want to let people know, we've talked about, I'd have to go back to the beginning of the chat, which I can do, to find the links to, this is Ben Balderson's channel on YouTube, and then this is Deliberating Dogface Dudes. Do you want to talk about this at all? You're debating in these channels.
Yeah, well, that hasn't worked out overly well. It turns out I'm not an overly debatable person. It's, people don't really want to debate with me that much. I've had all the major ortho bros have said they would debate, and then every one of them is bailed and chicken shitted out. Including like Andrew Wilson, Jay Dyer, all these guys. They don't want none. And I get it. So, but we are doing debates. I've been doing over to Sarah, the Raging Tomato is the name of her channel. I do some debating over there, and on the Powdered Dusty. We get somebody to come over occasionally on our channel. We've moved it mostly just back to my channel. But it's been fun, because what I wanted to do was, this was for my personal growth, because I have my own cosmology. I have my own way of seeing things. And you're always blind to your own shit. That's, your own shit don't stink. That's just how that works. And so I was
Unless you're in prison in the hole.
What's that?
Unless you're in prison in the hole.
Right. Yeah. Then it sucks.
And then it's just, it's all you got.
That's all you got. You're like, oh, damn, my shit does stink. Oh, I better do something about this. Yeah. But I wanted other people to poke holes in it and, have some discussions. And through that, I would then become better myself, fix the holes that I had, maybe abandon. I don't know. But I don't, nobody seems to, none of the bigger people anyways want to debate. And most of the ones that do, they aren't, well, we've had some great people on, but I'm not trying to say that our guests haven't been great, but most people, they aren't either aren't great or don't want a piece. But we're certainly trying, and we do some great deliberating. So that's the other thing. When we look at things, we're not looking at them from a side. Like one of our most recent episodes was with Wayne McCroy, and
I love that one.
Yeah, it's great, right?
Very
good.
Where
we looked at the history of Lilith, where actual factual things about it, and then we looked at the beliefs of today, and do these things match? Is the things? So the easy, quick rundown of that is we all know the story of Lilith, that she refused to have missionary sex with Adam because it was the dominant position or whatever, and she refused to be dominated. And so she becomes the mother of demons and blah, blah, blah. That's not anywhere in the actual myths, in the actual biblical stories or anything. So what happened was there's a play called The Alphabet of Ben Sirah. And that's where this story derives from, was literally like watching a Marvel movie and me going, oh, yeah, but Thor did this in the Marvel movie. He's now got that axe hammer thingy that he has in the Marvel shows. He doesn't have Mjolnir anymore. Like, this isn't true at all. This was a literal play. It was a comedy. And in the 1800s, so this was in the Middle Ages, in the 1500s. In the 1800s, the women's Jewish movement picked that up as an icon, and we've had nothing but morphing since then. And so this is now what you're presented with, but when you measure it up against any actual reality, it doesn't measure at all. And so there's deliberating and things like that. So that's been a lot of fun. And that is the truth seeking. Like, no matter how you feel about Lilith, whether you're like, Lilith is my champion. Oh, Lilith is horrible. All the evil Lilith women, well, let's look at the actual truth of it. And, oh, well, hold on. This is just something from a movie, a play. Like, there isn't even any reality to it. There's no mythical figure. At least, at best, you could call this a tulpa or something like that has been given a lot of energy into this created figure, but it's not a figure from myth or anything like that had any reality to it. So that's been kind of the focus of the show. And in between debates.
Good. Well, thanks for explaining that to me. I always like tuning in. So thank you for that. And thank you for coming. I will just remind people that if you're interested in taking part of that workshop with Melanie Johannesson tomorrow, you can apply to be a member of the House of Free Will at this application. I just revised the application so it doesn't have any goofy stuff in there that doesn't actually reflect me anymore. And it is free to members, and the membership is extremely affordable, can be as little as $3 a month. So then that can't be a reason if you wanted to take part. That is where Journey Code is also located. That's the coaching certification training that I created in 2020, and I'm about to run the 7th version of that. I guess it's been 6 years. I keep saying 5 years, but it's really been 6 since the whole world went kerflooey. And I am in the process of having conversations already, because I want to enroll that sooner than later, rather than not, get to the end.
That was 5 years ago, right about now, that you and I first met and did that. We were at that conference.
Was it 5 years ago?
It was exactly 5 years ago.
Okay,
I've been just had my fifth anniversary, And the honeymoon of it was going on. We went to that trip, and Christy and I went to Niagara Falls before we got to that event and whatnot. And that was our honeymoon.
There you go. Yeah, I remember that very, very well. It was really nice to have met you guys in person there. That was amazing.
Yes,
And
it was.
yeah. So if you wanted to reach out, I'll just let you know that if you book a conversation with me about Journey Code this month in June, then and you sign up for the training, I'll include a free Hero's Journey archetype reading, a personal one-on-one service that's been extremely enlightening for those that I've done throughout this year that I created. I was never a reader before. That might have been satanic from my last venture through Christianity, but I do read archetypes. It is one of my gifts. I have see-through vision. I've been told. I would never have said that about myself, but that's what they read in me. And so you can just let me know anyway. You can come on my Telegram group.
Can I ask a question about that, Beth?
Sure.
As you're doing that, have you noticed that people of each archetype, they look the fucking same? Is that weird, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. There is some variance, and there's some people that are odd, but like certain archetypes, when I look at them, I'm like, why do you all look the same? Like,
I'm not totally sure about that, because the way that I conceive of the archetype work is that you're not actually fixed on the hero's journey. You're in a
right. The people you're working with, you're trying to take through and become a more fulfilled person. I'm talking about the people that are just like the epitome. Like that's the only identity that they've taken on. They're stuck in that rut. They are just that one archetype. Do you notice that they look the same?
I think yes. If I spent any time in the more general public, I might notice those kind of trends. Like, you can walk down the street and you know that you're dealing with a computer geek, and he lives in his basement, and he's pale and malnourished, and so they are recognizable from yeah. But when it comes to the primary archetypes of the hero's journey, because it's a movement, it's like music, and could you look at me and call me a rebel? Maybe if I wore my leather jacket, I do have one of those, or, would you be able to nail me by my looks? I'm a little in disguise sometimes also with that. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to just start looking.
But when you said hero's journey, the hero is going through multiple archetypes. I don't believe most people do. I think it's a left-hand, right-hand path thing again. I think most people like that one thing, they stick themselves in that one thing, and that's where they stay their whole life. You're this thing. Wow. Most people don't want to be all the things.
You're exactly right on. And this was a recent discovery. I saw this, how part of the engineering in the psyoping of the last 5 years that we've been talking about is to bounce us between two archetypes, the child and the rebel, right? Those two, you just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. This came out really good in my interview with Kelsey Kenny, the second one on ivermectin, by the way. And she actually wowed me. My mind was blown after that interview. How I saw that the child was very seriously weaponized against us, and they had stickers, and they're wagging their fingers and telling you what to do. And then, of course, you saw the rebels that bust out and were the resistance and said no, and were a bunch of jerks. But I hadn't seen that very weird figure eight, how they just keep going through that and never progressing on the journey. So you nailed it, Ben.
You bet. And it's weird how they look. They start having the same features. Like you said, you can pick out a computer geek. Like, are they a super liberal that their whole life is anti-Republican and they're this figure? When you walk up to them, it when you see that person. You're like, oh yeah, no, I want to deal with you. I'm gonna have to sit and listen about fucking the evils of the Republican Party and all that. Not that I'm or vice versa. The guy comes up and he's got the high and tight and he's wearing the MAGA hat and the specific. They're very on the nose with things, and the more you're into this kind of thing and reading people, and again, like Beth said, it's out in the general public. This doesn't include in this private group where people are trying to figure things out and become something more and take a journey. For most people that don't want the journey, that just whatever, they like it's almost like putting on a uniform and they somehow look the same to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It becomes like a cartoon caricature of
Mm-hmm.
reality, right? Where, my goal is to be myself. That's my claim to fame right there. I want to be myself. I always wanted to be myself. Nobody liked that in the real world. So I had to create my own world where people do like that. And that's the kind of people I like. So if you're truly being yourself, then you are an evolving entity. Things are changing and shifting, your beliefs, your ideas. And so, yeah, it becomes much less pinnable. And yet still, it's through language and words and action. That's more how I'm reading rather than appearance. Those are unmistakable. Someone can sit and they will just use all the child words, or they'll use all the warrior words, or they'll use all the nurturer words. It's incredibly consistent,
Yes.
beautifully consistent. And it makes me so happy to see those patterns because it simplifies life that otherwise can seem like absolute chaos. I just noticed this question: how does my work compare to Jung? So Jungians don't like me, just so you know. I've been hired for talks, then they go a little deeper in my work, and then they fire me. So they don't like me. There are some things I would agree with Jung today, but other things I would definitely not agree. Like he considered an archetype to be an entity, a living entity of some kind, and I don't believe that. To me, it's a lens that life comes through and it takes shape in a certain way, and it's an available potential. But we have to cooperate with that. We have to decide to express through it to whether consciously or unconsciously, which is mostly unconsciously, is what people are doing. So yeah, it's not entirely unrelated, but I gave myself license, seeing how the world of archetypes was, it was like the Wild West. There was no right authority in my mind anyway. If everybody was doing something different, then I could do what I found genuinely inside myself. Because if I can't find it in myself, it ain't true. Or I can't claim the truth of it. But this is work that came from the inside out. And I'm going to shamelessly flash my book. This is a journey, a map of archetypes to find lost purpose in a sea of meaninglessness. So you get a really good feel for these 8 archetypes in that book.
I can actually see where he's coming from with the figures, and I actually do somewhat agree with him. If you're looking at like gods, I think gods, while we give them infinite complexity, I don't think they have it, and we have more complexity than they do. So when you're looking at these primal forces, if that primal force is like, even when we look at gods, actually we understand this, like this god's the god of love, this god's the god of hate. That's not the way humans work. Humans aren't love or hate, they're both. And so, but with gods, you can limit it down. And so we are a fractal of these ones, but then we're a fractal of the negative side too. And so there's an intermixing, like a potpourri. And while they're the ingredients for the potpourri and we're fractals of that, ours is all mixed together and infinitely more complicated.
I call them clusters. They're archetype clusters. And so no real person is going to be a one-dimensional anything. And that's why, figures in history that represent certain archetypes, they're very complex archetypes. And so that's why I did the journey archetypes, to break it down and grossly oversimplify, for the purpose of making it accessible to people and giving them a window into the complexity that is not overwhelming. So they can go in, they can find one archetype that they're expressing shadow in, they can clean that up, reclaim the energy without having to understand the complexity of the whole of the whole universe. So yeah. So that's a good question. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, I think that's all. So I'm not sure exactly where we're going to go next on the podcast. I'm open to any ideas that people have for guests. And when I really couldn't think of anybody, I thought of you.
Well, I agree. I appreciate that.
I always want to talk to you.
We love you so much, Beth. We appreciate it.
Likewise. So much love to Christy. I can hear her in the background. Thank you for your shared goals. Thank you, Christy. So beautiful. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. I know this is epic length, by the way. That's a longer stream than I've normally done. So thanks for sticking in.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, I'm going
Have a good one, guys.
Okay, have a great one. I'm going to play us out with my son's music, who is also the intro, and he is a good guitar player, and I want to share this with you. Bye for now.